When we heard that the Arizona-Seattle game was gonna be pushed to Sunday night, Joe, Mike, and we conferred and we said, "Guys, we gotta push Tilt Space back. It'll be great. We'll have a live sweat for $200,000. We'll have these Rust double stacks going. It'll be great." Well, that was not the case. In fact, it was so bad that we had to make showdown lineups just to have lineups to sweat. Yet those showdown lineups are already dead as well. So now we're contemplating fourth quarter flash drafts just to have a live sweat. But we are here to tilt through this very tilting week 7 slate. Welcome to the Tilt Space. We'll get through this together, guys. Today was not a day that you didn't want to have chalkitis. Today was a day where you wanted your chalkitis flaring up. You wanted to be breaking out in hives, a rash, itching. Jamal Williams, Gio Bernard, Devontae Adams, Alvin Kamara. Did we galaxy brain ourselves off the nuts, fellas?
I don't think so. I think with the nuts, I don't think the nuts was ever within our grasp this week. What do you think?
Dude, I feel like this. I feel like we've probably said this each time, but I feel like we made pretty good teams. It just like the combinations of it didn't work out, but also like it was another week where the chalk, it felt like it just went completely nuclear. Like I feel like we were on some really strong leverage spots, even a couple of them that definitely worked out, but the chalk was just so much better than all those plays. It just like literally didn't even matter.
I think like last week we had some takeaways that, maybe we could have done a Watson double. It kind of seemed obvious in retrospect, and some other things. This week, man, when even the chalk defense hits, Washington football team at 2,500. I know the Chiefs defense ended up in the nuts, but Washington football team 2,500 was 30+% owned in GPPs and scored 17 DK points. I mean, that.
And we had talked about that too. I had talked about it on shows. It's like, hey, one of my leaks is I just keep plugging in the cheap punt D. It's super overowned. The scoring is very random. We got to stop doing this. So we're building today. We're like, we got to get in Chargers D. Let's pay up. Let's get unique. And then just watching Washington crush right out of the gate. And you're like, okay, it's going to be one of those kind of weeks.
Even like our Derrick Henry team, man, we talked ourselves into like getting the Titans D in because it was like basically the same price at much lower ownership than Washington, even though we all like literally agreed that Washington was the play if we were paying down.
Yeah. We should also, some people in the chat are kind of asking exactly what our teams are. So we should give them just a bit of a rundown so they know exactly where we're coming from. So this week we played the luxury box. Which is a $3,000 buy-in, and it has that $200,000 first place prize. That's what CSU Ram 88 won last week when he came on to talk about Showdown. And then we also max entered the Juke, which is a $400 three max. So we ended up building 4 teams. And Leone, refresh my memory, I believe our luxury box was a Watson double stack that did have Adams in it.
Yeah, it was a Watson double with Jamal Williams and Devontae Adams coming back. Will Fuller and Cooks were the stat candidates. We got some early touchdowns from Jared Cook and McLaurin as sort of the chalkier pieces. This is the one where we did go Titans D over Washington D because we felt when we threw McLaurin and flex and playing Jamal Williams and Adams, we wanted a little bit of differentiation, which I think's totally reasonable. They did end up with 3 picks. They just got scored on a ton early, couldn't get any sacks. Mike Davis, I mean, he killed me this week. I had a ton of them, but he came in at 6%. And I'm not going to get mad about that. Like I said, last week, I felt like there were some things maybe we could have done differently. Overall, we were pretty happy. But this week, Mike Davis at 6%, the Titans D at a third of the ownership of the Washington defense. We got the chalk Adams and Jamal Williams hit. And like last week when Tennessee hit, we figured let's put it in the game stack. And Houston had their opportunities, but Watson eventually gets to 27 DK points, but not a ton of it was to Fuller and Cooks. So yeah, I like the team, but obviously, we came up came up short. I want to ask you, the Adams chalk hitting without Houston hitting was between that and Mike Davis were my two biggest killers of the week.
Yeah. And that game was so frustrating to watch. People mentioning, yeah, Will Fuller did get that touchdown at the end. I mean, Randall Cobb, way too involved for your liking when you have a Cooks Fuller double stack. And also just a lot of bad stalled out drives, lots of punts, kind of similar to our Cam tilt from last week, where it's like Deshaun Watson kind of gets there, in a lot of ways. Like it's not an awful score, but just you could feel if things go a little differently, like he can put up 40 pretty easily.
I think one thing that was interesting about our team overall and just like going with this Watson stack, we talked about even like Randall Cobb, like he's the one that's obviously involved because he's one of the only guys we don't have in the stack. But like we were literally like excited. David Johnson gets a touchdown through the air. We're like, okay, like it's moving in the right direction. We got a touchdown pass, whatever it is. And it's just like, man, he gets like, yeah, like 27. Like this is what like we can expect from a guy that's still going to give us some sort of floor and a great game environment, all of those things. They just didn't really keep up with Green Bay the way I expected them to early for sure. So unfortunate, but I'm pretty happy with the ownership we got on all of these guys, to be honest. I still think that it was a decent play just going with that stack, but also like we kind of wrestled, probably not very long, but with playing Williams and Adams in the same lineup. Do you think we ever considered just bringing it back with one of these guys? I don't know if we really even thought it mattered because Williams is 4K.
To me, the thought process on that, and I'd be curious to hear Leone's thought, is similar to when you do the triple stack with the punt tight end, right? Where it's just like, it's already a tough decision, or kind of not that important of a decision. Just toss in the tight end because you're already making a bet on that game. We were making a bet on this game while Jamal Williams was already one of the best plays on the slate. So it seemed like a no-brainer. We're hoping for this game to go nuclear. And if it does, we are completely fine having two pieces from the Packers side.
Yeah, I agree. I mean, Jamal Williams was chalk. We were eating left and right. We felt like it was too strong of a play. And with Aaron Jones out, it's more opportunities for both these guys. We had, at the beginning of the week on ETR, our projections had Aaron Jones as one of the best running back values and Devontae Adams one of the best wide receiver values. And that was with Aaron Jones at 7,600. So now you take out Aaron Jones, you replace him with a 4K guy. Both guys can get there. And I think that we talked a little bit about maybe not playing Adams, maybe playing Tunyon, maybe playing Marquez Valdes-Scantling. But at the end of the day, I think Williams and Adams together, if you're stacking the game, it made a lot of sense. And I know talking to Drew Dinkmeyer, who, one of the things he even said in his lineups that he wished he did was, allowed those guys together in his MME set, not in game stacks. I'm a little torn on that in 3 max. I'm not sure if that's too chalky to not get the bring back, but obviously it's going to be the way that most of the winning lineups are going to end up being constructed because it's 2 chalk pieces that hit together.
One thing
Let's
I thought.
go ahead, Joe.
No, I just the next team that I guess kind of wanted to touch on quickly is it was our worst team, I think, of all these ones that we built, and it was this Josh Allen team. I was a little bit surprised at where Josh Allen, Diggs, and Davis came in, like over 10%. Diggs was close to 20% in the juke, but Derrick Henry at sub 1% ownership after he gets absolutely smashed. I opened up that and was pretty pumped about that. We still got a single-digit defense in there. We mixed in a little bit of chalk, but I still think this was a really well-constructed team. Did you think we would ever get Derrick Henry at sub 1% in this? I mean, that's got to be a home run regardless.
Sub 1% is hilarious.
0.3%.
Crazy.
I think that means we were the only team that had him out of 347.
Wild.
Isn't it such a cruel thing of being like I consider myself in fantasy in general a Derrick Henry skeptic, right? And so as a skeptic, you're not going to play him when the entire public's on him because it's not baking in his downside risk with not catching passes. But when you present a guy that has that kind of ceiling, if you would tell me he would be at sub 1% ownership, I probably have him in 50% of my lineups. Like, just
that's wild.
The ceiling there is insane. But what's so disgusting about Derrick Henry is he only rewards the slappies when he's super popular, not when the contrarian guys finally want to play him. No. Then he's done going nuclear.
That's what I said, Pete. I was so confused. I was like, where's my 90-yard Derrick Henry touchdown? And you're like, oh, Joe, those only happen when he's 30% owned, not when he's sub 5. Like, where have you been? Like, you're on Derrick Henry when he's actually a good play. Like, this is the worst.
I will say, I was really big into the Bills stack. They didn't punt today, guys. If you would have known that ahead of today, you probably would have thought we smashed the Derrick or the Josh Allen stacks. Bimefort was talking about that on Twitter. No punts, 8 field goal attempts. But Holka, you make a good point. They came in higher owned than expected.
Yeah.
As much as I love the process behind the Bills stack with Brown out, I love the ceiling there. If I knew, Diggs 18%, Gabriel Davis 13, you look at the late night hammer stack, Metcalf 15%, Kirk 13%, Lockett 18%. I mean, you probably lean more towards the late night hammer stack if you knew the receiver ownerships were going to be about the same. You probably play that twice.
Should we have a tough conversation? You're probably moving some of that Josh Allen ownership when you talk about it back-to-back shows on your. I mean, you guys are getting a ton of views on Saturday. You and Wiggins are getting a ton of views on Sunday. People are wanting to be ahead of the chalk. And we keep talking about this pendulum shift. And I'm not saying you're the sole person changing it, but I do think like that dynamic is in play. Like people are turning to the people who talk about GPP strategy and tournament strategy, and they want to know where you're thinking. And it's like this weird like meta within a meta where that's then creating a subgenre of chalk.
Peter.
It is interesting. But I will point out we hit on the Burrow stacks a ton, and the Burrow stack so our 3 stacks in the juke. So our secondary teams, not the luxury box. Allen double stack. We did not bring it back. We felt like we didn't have to with the Jets. Then we did stack the late night hammer with Kyler, Kirk, Metcalf, Lockett. And then we did a Burrow double where we played Hopkins as leverage off Adams. Hopkins was only 13%, but the Burrow double, Burrow comes in at 8%. Boyd comes in at 7%. T. Higgins comes in at 6%. Hunt was kind of chalky coming back, but that stack didn't get owned. So I feel like in general, we sort of played the right stack. One ended up lower owned than we thought. One ended up higher owned than we thought, and one ended up really where we wanted to see it, which was this Burrow stack. And we played Carson to leverage that one. And do we have a chance of cashing that team? No, I think we're dead now. Because of the Lockett versus Carson first half.
Pete, if we're actually moving ownership though, like why is DeAndre Swift
I'm not saying
7%?
I'm saying I see how many people watch the Establish the Run streams. I mean, these guys will hop on for a 2-game slate and they'll have 1,000 people watching them. They're moving ownership.
That's fair.
So, Brandon Reed, he's in the chat, won 50,000. Send us the lineup to Joe and
tweet
Mike
it at
and
us.
I on Twitter.
Tweet us the link or something. We'll bring it up on stream. We'll talk about it. That's awesome, man.
Yeah, we want to see this lineup. But yeah, I do think it's let's talk about that idea too of, there's been some talk on Twitter this evening about the out leveling, the galaxy braining off of like, there was this funny dynamic once this game was shifted to the main slate, like everyone gets really excited. It's a premier game. You get the Sunday night football hammer in an anomaly main slate. And then you also see the contrarian people going, oh, please do. I want to fade that game. I want to fade it. It's going to be too chalky. The ownerships all came in relatively manageable. I mean, Russ especially was low owned. None of the Lockett and Metcalf stuff was out of control. It seems kind of interesting to me considering how much value opened up on the slate that people weren't building more game stacks around this game. What are our thoughts on, is that just shifting slate dynamics or is this an out leveling thing?
Well, I think the first thing overall is that like the beginning of the week, completely different conversation, because when we were talking about potentially building in a Seattle and Arizona stack, it was very hard to do with the value that we had available, right? So we thought that there was at least a chance that these would go a little bit under, like the full stack would be very under-owned because it was hard to get there. Like you had to punt off a couple of these running backs. At that point, we didn't really have all of these really good value plays. So I think it was definitely a different conversation earlier in the week. As the week progressed, it was not hard to get in a Kyler stack. It was not hard to get in a Russ, Lockett, Metcalf, bring it back with Hopkins. So I think that was a big part of it. I do think that like my own personal biases, it was hard to try and jam in like a Jamal Williams and a Gio Bernard into the same lineup and still feel like I had the same ceiling. But that's pretty much what you had to do in order to get in one of these stacks. Like, Leone, do you think that like looking back on it after like pretty solid value opened up, like should we have kind of circled back to this a little bit? I don't know. Like even just in this juke contest, like we got Christian Kirk at 13%, Kyler Murray's at 18. Like I don't know. I don't know. Like you said, we didn't know it was going to be the same ownership as the Bills stack, but I don't know. It's just different as the week went on for me.
Yeah, it was up and down. And Peter, we talked last night, and one of the things I kind of asked you, I kind of asked Wiggins on the show we did this morning. It was, do you think people might not play this game just because there's so much obvious chalk values that they play almost a cash game mindset? And I wonder if that happened a little bit where if you're playing Devontae Adams and you're playing one of the other chalkier receivers, I mean, to really stack this game appropriately, you had to spend a lot of money and you had to take up all your receiver spots from the chalk. So I'm not totally surprised overall that it came in a little underowned. I am surprised on like Lockett specifically.
Yeah.
I really thought Metcalf would be huge leverage on Lockett. I played in the 7-7-7 and I did the expensive stack, the Russ double with Hopkins coming back. Lockett's 18, Metcalf's 15. I did not expect that. I really thought, Metcalf would stay down, but I thought Lockett, as we moved up stakes, would go up. And in order to fit that, it was one of the rare teams where I played both chalk, cheap running backs, and Bernard and Williams. And what's interesting is Williams was 73% and Bernard was 30. And I kind of feel like if I knew Bernard was going to be 30 in upper stakes, I might have jammed a little bit more Bernard and Williams, but I faded a lot of Bernard thinking that it'd be more like Bernard 40 to 45 and Jamal like 60. And I just wanted to eat the Jamal chalk.
Yeah. And the more I think about this of trying to figure out why people didn't stack up this game more. And I think it does go back into people, we like the clean stack. So like we ran a Burrow stack and that ended up being like, there were a decent amount of those and it was a super clean stack. You have a cheap quarterback, two cheap, good wide receiver options in the mid fives. You bring it back with Kareem Hunt, who has the all-purpose workload, helps you diversify a little bit off the chalk of Hunt going around that. Like that's a comfortable stack to make. Like last week when people were building those Kirk Cousins, Jefferson, Irv Smiths, like those were comfortable stacks to make. This stack in this game, even if you were willing to put in the two punt wide receivers, it's uncomfortable because you're saying, I want Lockett, I want Metcalf, and I want Hopkins. Like there was no one, I guess you could say Kirk, but even then from the Kyler side, it was kind of uncomfortable to go nuke Kirk and bring it back with one of those wide receivers. So I wonder if that's something to be thinking about for really trying to dial in on these ownerships is maybe I just developed a new metric, the comfortability stack metric. How comfortable is a stack to make?
And we talk a lot about getting a different structural build than the chalk. And I think that's what it is. Because sometimes what happens, even me building, I feel like I have a pretty good contrarian mindset. I'm pretty open to being contrarian. There's times I build and I put in a stack I like, and I'm like, oh shit, I'm fading Kamara, I'm fading Devontae Adams. Like, can I really do this? And that's almost a check that, yeah, I probably should be doing it, because if I'm that uncomfortable, other people are going to be that uncomfortable. End of the day, though, I really feel like, if both chalk running backs, the chalk receiver, and the chalk defense all hit, it's probably lights out for me in smaller field. I think MME, there's stuff you could get around it. But it's hard to go all in on Devontae Adams, right? I mean, and you sort of needed to.
And that was another thing, Joe. Like I was talking with Leone about this last night, and I'm like, Adams is such a good play and Jamal Williams is such a good play. I was actually getting a little worried. Is this Watson double stack going to be more popular than we think? Because again, I'm thinking if people want to play these and people want to build high upside tournament lineups, what does that funnel you to? Well, you either play Rodgers, but even then that's not a comfortable stack. People don't want to do Rodgers, Jamal, and Adams. So what's the comfortable way to play it? You do the Watson double stack and bring it back with those two. And we did actually end up seeing like a little bit more ownership on that versus in a vacuum. I would have assumed it would have been more on the Russ stuff.
Yeah, I ended up playing the 777 also, but this is one of the teams that I like. I don't feel too bad about my roster construction overall. This is one of the Burrow teams that I rolled out. I didn't end up playing Higgins in this one, but just Burrow, Boyd brought it back with Njoku, and then I tried to get in a bunch of the expensive plays from later on. So Metcalf, Lockett, and Hopkins. Obviously, if you didn't have the Devontae Adams in the Hopkins spot, that's going to hurt you overall. But Derrick Henry, 3%, Titans D, 1.2%. But the only reason I even brought up this team is that I think that one of the things that you talked about, Pete, like when we were looking at the defensive plays and looking at Washington, the very uncomfortable, I literally wrestled with this. If Doozy's in the chat right now, he was talking about this in Discord with me. Derrick Henry, I already had him, but I had the Washington defense in here because it felt comfortable. And then I'm like, well, I mean, I literally, like, why would I not play the 1% defense that also correlates with a lower owned Derrick Henry in this team that is, like, I thought would be more chalky than it ended up being? But like the answer is probably just to make the uncomfortable play, even if it didn't completely work out. I still think that this team was constructed well. Look at this, you guys. Look at Joe with a wide receiver in the flex here. I'm learning. I'm trying. I'm making efforts. We did it. I got Derrick Henry. I have Derrick Henry and DeAndre Hopkins in the flex in the same exact team. Like it's week 7, boys. Like you're
Also,
rubbing off on me. I lost almost every cent today, but you're rubbing off on me.
I like it. I want to point out too, running back kind of stunk today. So Bernard and Jamal Williams at 20 points, which is super good value to begin with at their price tags. That's a mega smash. I mean, people are winning tournaments with Kareem Hunt and Alvin Kamara, being meh as their third running backs because just the way it sort of broke out. So yeah, damn. I mean, it is what it is, I guess.
Well, we don't have Pete. We don't have much of a sweat today, so I think we should at least give Noel his due here. So one of my good friends in the industry, we've been working together for a couple years, just some one-on-one type of stuff. He was tied for first with Boggs Light in the Wildcat. Really strong team overall. We were just talking about those Burrow stacks. He had a Keenan Allen versus CEH decision in terms of his late swap. He ended up going with Keenan Allen. He did drop to second. There was a Lockett team that passed, but we're pulling for you, Noel. Hopefully you can take down this 100K. That would be an awesome score for you, man. Definitely. I guess where would you guys have landed? So he was roughly, I think he was in 7th place or so when he was trying to make the Keenan Allen versus CEH call. He ended up going Keenan Allen with this team. Where would you guys have been?
I would have taken Keenan Allen, I think.
Yeah, I was starting to get, we talked about that this morning on the Line Movement pre-kickoff show, and I was starting to get real nervous about that game. Not that CEH running the ball, that would impact a lot of things, but just the weather dropping, Le'Veon Bell coming back, just wondering. I know Brandon Thorne had the Chiefs as a big defensive line, offensive line mismatch. It just seemed like the game could slow down in a ton of different ways. And it just didn't seem like you could get the ceiling games necessarily that you'd want from them in that environment. Whereas Keenan was in a great spot. I guess the only conversation would have been, I assume CH was far less owned than Keenan.
Yeah, I want to look at that actually. I think that's what we assumed, but he was like so not necessarily far ahead. But I mean, I guess at this point, maybe it was the wrong decision because Bogslade had the exact same team, even if he does get second place here. But interesting. Well, I'll point this out though. Will Disley with the catch, so that we got that going for us. We're gonna win it all back.
I wonder. Yeah, I guess Lockett wasn't in the conversation, but if he knew he was duped and knew Lockett was $300 cheaper. But that's like also big hindsight because Lockett scored 36 points in the first half.
Sure.
What shit, I was gonna say something like moderately smart, and I forgot what it was because
I was just gonna say I see some people. Keenan. Oh, go ahead. Yeah.
Well, I was gonna say Keenan. I think it's an example too of when you're playing tournaments to look at the ceiling outcomes and not worry too much about what could go wrong. You're thinking about what could go right. And I talked to a lot of people this week that were really worried the Chargers were just going to run a ton in this game. The Keenan Allen was 2 games ago had a 19 target game. I mean, those just don't happen in the NFL, a 19 target game. And the ceiling that's associated with that is huge. So I think Keenan over CEH was probably the right decision.
There's a little conversation going on in the chat right now about stacking. Is it being overdone? You know, sometimes that they were referencing this being a bigger slate. I personally think we're overreacting far too much if we're down on stacking because none of the game stacks hit super cleanly like they have in the past few weeks. I mean, we have to remember the whole point of stacking is we're eliminating the number of things we have to get right. Like you can go look at a bunch of Millie Maker winning lineups and say, man, stacking's overplayed. Look at this guy just perfectly nailing his 9-leg parlay in the Millie Maker. Like we're not trying to hit 9-leg parlays. We're trying to hit 2 or 3-leg parlays, and stacking allows us to do that.
The flip side too, it gets us off the chalk structural build. You know, by you double stack with a bring back, and it's necessary that you're fading the chalk receivers, or else you literally couldn't play the stack. So it didn't work out this week because the chalk one-off wide receiver went nuts, and the game stack didn't work out. So those are going to be tricky weeks when a 34% receiver goes for 45 and the game stack doesn't hit. It's probably going to be bad for us. Yeah, but I think that's okay.
I'm going to keep bringing this up because I know Pete is never going to self-promote, but he just recently did an interview on his YouTube channel. I'm going to drop the link into the chat right now. Him and Bales had a really interesting conversation, some high-level DFS talk. But Pete, one of the things that I kind of took from that talk that you guys did was you shouldn't necessarily only be late swapping when you're behind. Bales and yourself were talking about if you think you have a legitimate chance to get to the top, a legitimate chance to get to these other payout tiers, that's when you should be late swapping. You want to talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I think what we had mentioned was, I think intuitively the way people think about late swapping, and I think this actually comes up for the cash game grinders, is you late swap when you're blocked. Like, you're done and your only chance of winning is to get something different than whoever's ahead of you. And I think that can be applicable in tournaments too. But for the most part, I actually think it's when your lineup is doing really good that you want to late swap, because we know in a lot of these contests how much of the money is in the top 5, top 10. And so it's kind of a counterintuitive thing of like, hey, my lineup's crushing, but if my last 2 pieces are really chalky or whatever, then you're going to have a hard time crashing that big money zone where you get that kind of bink that can turn your entire season around. And that's actually where I think you should probably be more aggressive with late swapping. That said,
it's hard to do,
it's hard to do. And also the way we've collectively been building for the tilt spaces, we're already building in like a pretty contrarian team. And it just so happened today, like our chalky pieces were in the early game, like our Jamal Williams. So even if we're doing well, like we had nothing to late swap off of because we had Godwin and Waller teams going late. We weren't worried about those being chalky. So I think there are a lot of dynamics to it, but I just thought it's a good problem to have if your lineup's crushing, but it is something where I think you might want to consider it in those situations.
Is that something you think about, Leone? Like if you actually think you're somewhat close, maybe you do have some chalk coming. Like it's not even necessarily being blocked. It's just like Pete just said, like realizing your expectation for a full season, like you need a bank at some point. Like I guess I would struggle personally with getting super aggressive in a spot where I still felt like I was optimal the rest of the way. But I guess maybe that's bad. I don't know. I took a lot from that combo.
I think, well, that's part of the reason why I like playing these smaller fields, not to be broken record about liking to play those, but it's easier to evaluate those decisions. You can see how many people have PMR left, what their salary is remaining, and you can make those decisions a lot easier. I think what Pete is saying, though, makes a lot of sense. When you're in the top 10 and your decision is going to dictate whether you finish top 3 or you finish 15th, that's a hugely leveraged decision. That's has a massive impact on your ROI for the entire season. So you should definitely be thinking through it in all of the angles. And that might mean, late swapping off a good team to something that's a little bit, more contrarian, a little bit less likely to hit, but you can also, you also want to swap into chalk too. Like if you feel like that you have these people blocked, so it works both ways.
And as an interesting thought experiment, and this all changes, like it, depending on where your bankroll is, like you might want to just lock in that profit. Like, say you're looking at a 10,000 to third or a 50,000 for, it all depends on your personal risk tolerance, but it is, Mike, I would say like a simple expected value math problem. Like say if you had a 50% chance at third for 10,000 or a 10% chance at 50,000, right? Like those are the same expected value, or sorry, that's not the same expected value, right? You would have I've drank too
No,
much to
that's
do
the
this
same.
math.
That's the same. You did that right.
But you see
50%
my
chance. Yeah, you did it right. It's the
Yeah,
same
so
expected value.
so if you're flipping a coin for those two things, like then you would just err on that side. But say as those dynamics shift and the expected value for first becomes much greater, then maybe it makes sense. But again, this is like that people do those thought experiments all the time. Like, what would you rather have, 100,000 in hand or a 50% chance at $1 million? Well, you
Yeah.
should take base expected value on the 50% chance at a million, but a lot of people would just want to lock in the 100,000.
That thought experiment's interesting though, because I always thought people who wouldn't take the 50% chance were, donkeys. But as I saw more people explain it, depending on your situation, like the value, the utility of each extra dollar, that first $100,000 might have way more utility than the next 400,000 for someone, and it'd be worth it to lock it in. Now we're getting off into random question hypotheticals, but I do like
But
to
I
evaluate the
think
thought
like
experiments.
I'm not inherently like a math guy. Like I've gotten into it and learned more about it and understand. But I do think having just like a fundamental understanding of those kind of basic dynamics helps you think through these kind of decisions and helps you understand like, well, why would I ever late swap when I have a good team? Well, it's like, well, if you look at these prize pools, the expected value is it might be pointing you in the direction of taking on more risk.
What's the Bell's quote that sort of insults me a little bit, but makes a lot of sense? It's something about, understand data, but don't be a data scientist.
Yeah. Well, Bales is big on, and he's been writing about this lately too, about like you'd rather be quick than right, with the premise being that you can iterate. Like if you're wrong
Yeah.
and then you can change real quickly on the fly. Obviously, if it's a life-changing decision, you need to put some time and make the right decision. But if it's something that can just easily be changed, like that's what's fun about DFS. It's why I enjoyed playing all these different DFS sports in the off season. It's like I'm trying new stuff out. I fail, try again, tweak my process, play this showdown slate, tweak it, try this. Like that's why I think that iteration thing is pretty big for improving.
And like people don't have this game cracked and completely figured out. So I think sometimes we just get way too risk averse in something that's not, totally solved yet. If you played cash games and double ups and you saw the massive amount of dupes, you might feel differently about that game. But the tournaments is just so dynamic. I don't know what you think about that, Joe.
Well, just taking it as gospel, as this guy's projected for 17 points, this guy's projected for 15 points, this guy's going to be 3% owned, this guy's going to be 25% owned. Like in reality, we should be looking at it as like those 2 points. It's not a given. Like we don't know anywhere near as close as much as we think, because there's going to be so much randomness in football anyway. So like in theory, I guess depending on the position, we should be trying to at least capture a similar ceiling at much lower ownership in some of these spots and just be thoughtful about our construction. That's one thing that I really like about 3max, about single entry, is you can really think through every single play you're making so that your lineup tells a story, Pete. Your lineup tells a story, and it really just like you're able to think through things a little bit more than an optimizer could never do for you. I think that's part of it for sure. I'll say this one thing, that if you have close to the nuts, like we're still sweating Noel's team in second place in the Wildcat right now for 100K, like I can respect the hell out of him just throwing in 150 Lockett captains when he knew that he was just fading Lockett in this spot. So hopefully, even if Lockett went completely crazy, I know Noel dropped down to second place here, but hopefully that helps a little bit.
Yeah, hopefully he runs into something.
That's hard too, thinking about, there's clearer hedge situations sometimes, right? Whereas like a showdown captain hedge can be a little murky with, threading that needle perfectly. It's not just like an if then proposition. Yeah, I think one thing too that I've really come to peace with, and I think it also helps and speaks to like making sure you have good bankroll management. And these guys were giving me a hard time for being nit Verzet. And I've had some of my bigger scores, and I'm still playing relatively similar to my same volume on my own. Collectively, we're obviously playing bigger than I ever have, but it helps me to take these losses in stride and not overact. I'm not going to bed tonight being like, oh shit, should I be doing more one-off plays? Should I be playing more chalk? No, like these weeks are going to happen. Like I'm not freaking out about that because I'm not living and dying by every slate. I'm going to TTP, trust the process, and I like what we're doing. And I know we're going to have these weeks where the chalk doesn't hit. and we're not going to need 1,000,000 points to win a tournament, and we're going to take another one of these down.
Yeah, I think one thing we all see is routes that we could have won this week. Maybe not on all our teams, but a couple of the teams specifically. I think, you see Mike Davis at 6%. You feel pretty good about that. You know that if Mike Davis, who's got maybe a 10% chance of being the RB1 on the slate, or 10% chance maybe of being the top 3 RB value, you'll take that at 6%. And so I think there are some people too that drive themselves too crazy, assuming they can predict the future, right? We're not into predicting the future. That's not what we're trying to do. And I've said this when we've been wrong and when we've been right. When I won a lot of money with Aaron Jones and fading Leonard Fournette, I said exactly this. If their ownerships were flipped, I would have done the exact opposite thing, and I would have been totally wrong, because I'm not playing based on what I think is going to happen. I don't know what's going to happen, which is kind of the point. We have some rough ideas of ranges of outcomes because we can analyze data, we have projections, but at the end of the day, if someone told you last week even that Alexander Madison was going to score 4 points and Derrick Henry was going to score 44 points, your projection systems wouldn't have had them that close. If you could have figured that out, more people would have figured that out. So I think it's important to understand that at a certain point, you're just not going to be able to figure out the right answer. I know there's some people that like to always think, well, if I just worked a little bit harder, or, thought about something a little bit differently, I would have realized that I had to play Devontae Adams with Burrow double stacks and need the Devontae one-off chalk. And it's like, yeah.
I think one of the things that I've kind of circled to, I guess, today, obviously there was parts of today that were extremely tilting. If we wouldn't have had this show for Sunday Night Football, we might be having a different conversation right now. But I think in weeks like this, it was harder for me to look back at some of these teams and feel like we made any really specific errors. So I think that if you feel like you're still doing the right things, especially the way we're trying to build for these tournaments, it doesn't mean that after a couple of losing weeks, we just completely blow this thing up, blow up our process, start to do different types of things. That's when it can go from bad to worse. You know what I mean? So for anyone out there that has had a couple bad weeks in a row, that literally doesn't mean anything. If you're playing tournaments, especially if you're playing things that are qualifiers, there can be long stretches of things not going well. And that doesn't mean that you're doing things wrong. It just means that there's different things that just haven't quite broken your way. It doesn't mean you can't work hard and make better decisions, do more research, do more types of roster construction types of things. But a lot of this is, to me at least, is just do you have the experience of being able to go through things like this? Peter said he's going to go to bed and sleep like a baby tonight, knowing that he at least put himself in a position to
part of
win
that is going to be the
things.
whiskey and Coors Lights, though.
Oh yeah, that's fair. That's fair.
And the day off tomorrow.
Yeah, and the day off tomorrow. I'm going to be cutting this podcast. Pete's going to be asleep, literally. His nice little 12-hour cat.
No, we'll be up at 10. You said I don't do plugs. I'll be up at 10 reviewing my shitty lineups in the Spy on my channel. I did just want to say another very simple frame of reference. So I don't know if you guys saw, but Ricky D, he's a successful high stakes player. He won the Millie Maker on the Monday 2-game slate last week for $1 million, obviously, incredibly sick hit. He, I remember last year he was going through a downswing because he posted this graph on Twitter and it made everyone have a pit in their stomach because it was like a $600,000 downswing, or it might have even been worse than that. It was an insane downswing. And this is what happens for a guy like him who is 150 maxing the Millie Baker. I think he 150 maxes the Wildcat or whatever that max is. He's a sicko, and that's going to result in massive swings. And then it swings back in his favor because he's a plus EV player that's playing the long game. So I think it's just putting that in perspective. And we've heard I've heard Drewby say, and I've heard other people say, they're going through downswings right now. When you play contrarian, that's going to happen. So you have to remain solvent. You have to continue to trust that you are doing the right things and not overreact to small sample sizes.
And you said with the bankroll, and Blender won his 50K in the slant last week, talked about bankroll management a lot. And, even myself, I've probably gotten a little too aggressive the last 2 weeks after a hot start.
Sure.
But to even min cash a tournament, you're 20% to just min cash, right? And that's 1 in 5 weeks. Obviously you're playing more than one team, you're playing more than one tournaments, but especially when you're correlated with how well the chalk does, if you're playing contrarian, if you're hand building, 6 to 10 lineups like I am, there's gonna be weeks where you're gonna take basically zeros. And you have to understand that because things might have broken right, you don't control the way things are going. We know the chalk's more likely to hit than the non-chalk, right? So you're going to lose more weeks than you win, but the key, win a lot when you win. And you look at our ROI, it's really high, and we've had 2 out of the, what is this, week 7?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Have we had 4 weeks where we've returned nothing?
Yeah.
And we're up even after even having played more the last couple of weeks
And gotten buried.
We're going to be up, 4x, basically 3 to 4x on the season. And that's with, our most aggressive bankroll plays coming in the last couple of weeks where we've taken straight zeros.
Yep.
I think it's a good conversation. Pete, we haven't even touched on the super contest. You want to go through that quickly? It is at the bottom of the screen. I can send it to you if you need it.
No, I see it on the screen here too. So yeah, New Orleans -7.5. It's been so long. We didn't get that one, right?
I should probably bring up the stats. I literally haven't. I closed my computer very early today. We'll say that.
I'll keep reading through these. Obviously, we had Buffalo -13. That did not work out at all. San Francisco +2. What a smash. That crush. Did the Chargers win by 8?
Yeah, they won by 10.
Yeah, they won by 10. That hit. Green Bay -3.5. That hit. So what? What was the New Orleans one? That's the one I don't know.
New Orleans
won by 3.
Okay, so we lost that one. So we went 3-2 on the week.
How many times have we lost on New Orleans this year?
New Orleans,
I think the same amount as Dallas now. Dallas, I think we've lost 3 times just by picking Dallas.
Yeah. Yeah.
Rough.
Well, 3-2 at least keeps us afloat, and we can pretend we have a chance.
Yeah.
We're going to need to rattle off some 5-0s. Winner take all.
It is. People do forget that it is winner take all. But that's what makes us feel alive, boys.
Min Cash Pete.
Man, I haven't. See, now Min Cash Pete is like officially dead. Like I'm polarized, Pete.
Are we building a fourth quarter team?
I think we should build a fourth quarter flash draft team.
I'm trying to find. Here's an $85 4-man. Is this what we've stooped to?
Hey, Chris. I know Chris is in the chat. Chris would hop in an $85 4-man.
Yeah.
It's 3 people. Should I hop in that?
He's not on the qualifier right now, so he's got some extra bullets to fire, I think.
Well, I was just gonna say, should we have Joe do it so he can?
Yeah, I'll do it for sure. Let's figure out what contest we want to play, and then I'll bring it up.
I don't know. Just find one of them. They're filling fast. I'm not used to these flash drafts. This isn't my.
I don't think I've ever played one of these. I'm not gonna lie.
There's an $85 winner take all that you should reserve before someone takes the spot.
I did want to touch on this question. Leone had flagged this too from James. He said, would like to see you guys craft a week 8 lineup after first look, but not share it. As things move throughout the week, I'd love to see how you review that first initial take and see how it would have done.
Contest goes live in 45 seconds, guys.
Just wait. There'll be, actually, no, yeah, sign us up.
Sign us up. What do you mean? That we don't have a
lineup?
Wait,
don't we need to make
it's in 37 seconds?
Oh, I thought it was a flash draft. Is it not a flash draft?
Am I in the wrong place? I'm in fourth quarter.
No, that means the draft's going to start in 30 seconds.
Yeah, the draft starts in 30 seconds.
It's not a salary cap thing.
I'm an idiot.
No, you're not. We're just not a degenerate that's played this before.
Well, it's asking us to put people in the flex and stuff. I really feel like I'm in
right now. Maybe that's a new.
Don't do it.
Don't do it. We're like good
literally almost
management.
It off $85 on stream. Literally, like
we literally play an invalid lineup for.
It's like, guys, this doesn't feel right. It's asked me to pick players with salaries. This is not a flash draft.
Yes, how we have 4x our bankroll when we are this much of a shit show is beyond me. But I wanted to mention that thing that James said because I think it's illustrative of what Leone was saying about the kind of decisions we're making by the end of the week. Our first look lineup would look nothing like what we would have. Like we would each have our own personal biases of like, man, I like DJ Moore. He's a great player. Why don't we play him? Or, oh man, this guy seems slightly underpriced. But again, like the decisions we're making when we talk about how much stuff changes by Sunday morning, like the first look lineup is not remotely relevant because we have projections changing for both player performance and ownership, what the field's going to do. We have shifting slate dynamics. If a guy like Jamal Williams opens up, well, all of a sudden you can afford higher price tight end or higher price wide receiver. So like, I don't know, am I being too hard in saying like a first look? And I'm not saying this for Joe, for people who do first look content, but as far as from like a practical Sunday thing, it's not actionable at all.
If anyone's,
Yeah, I
for the
mean,
record, if anyone's watching my first look and then going and building their lineups, they're doing it wrong, obviously.
Yeah.
Like I'm
I mean,
on your side that like, yes, you should be consuming content as late in the week as possible. I probably shouldn't be saying that as someone that runs a content site, but obviously things change. This is a perfect example of a week that a lot of things change. But Leone, before you touch on that, can someone like show me how to do this like I'm 4?
I think we missed our chance.
Okay, because I have no idea what a flash draft is. I've never done this.
Screw it. It's not even a good enough dopamine rush for the.
Fair enough.
Yeah.
I did almost punt off $85 for just a dummy lineup just then because you guys are making me panic.
I was going to say that I don't know. Oh, for the first look thing,
Yeah.
the first look. I mean, but it helps you get acquainted with the slate and you'll where some of the edges might be, and then you can kind of. I think it also makes it interesting to track content throughout the week when you do have this good grasp of what's going on first. So I do think those first look content is pretty valuable. I think as far as building a lineup, though, we don't want to get anchored to something when there's so many changing dynamics. So we might talk we'll talk concepts throughout the week.
Right.
I'll throw in, so and Peter, you mentioned this too. Guys like Ben Gretsch who do stat chasing, Dwayne McFarland for ETR does a utilization report. Some of that stuff, if we see interesting nuggets on guys that might help us make decisions later on, we'll share that. That's going to stick with us. But as far as specifically making lineups, I mean, it's usually Saturday because the good ownership projections aren't really coming out until Friday night, Saturday morning type stuff.
Most sites hadn't even updated ownership until late Saturday night to reflect the Jamal Williams news, and that's a massive domino that affects the entire slate dynamic. So, and one thing too that this was, I also think is kind of reflective of this dynamic is last year, what I used to do is I'd have like my contests I'd be registered for, and I'd have my ideas, and I'd be going into like my spy lineup, and I'd be tweaking it and be like, no, now I want this guy in there, and I would find myself tweaking the same lineup and getting very anchored to it, that by the time Sunday rolled around, I didn't want to move off of these plays I had stared at the whole week. And I realized that was bad. Like I needed to come into Sunday with a really clear head. So what I did, because I do, to your point, James, about wanting a first look, I start building these $3 lineups in the big $3.20 max. And I'll just build them on a Wednesday. Oh, I have this idea. Let's see how this fits. Oh, I'll build a few more Friday. Normally by Sunday rolls around, I've put like 15 to 16 lineups in this $3 contest. And I'll adjust them if there's inactives or whatever. But to me, that's a small investment to pay to just, so to speak, get my rocks off, get it out of my system, get familiar with the slate. But then I also am not anchored to that. When I go to build my biggest lineups on Sunday, I'm not going back and seeing, what did I build on Tuesday? I'm just banking that knowledge and that familiarity with the slate.
Yeah, there's sometimes I literally start over. I'll build my 10 handmade lineups, and if I'm not liking what I have or my exposures, instead of making stupid little tweaks like you mentioned, I'll honestly export one team across everything and just start over completely from scratch. It turns out, guys, that Flash Draft is mobile only. So we were not even
missed it.
That's why.
Yeah.
Okay.
So there's no contests yet, but I'll keep checking. If one pops up, I'll let you guys know.
Keep us updated. I do want to touch on a good question we have in the chat from Chris earlier. He was asking how we deal with recency bias, upside, downside of recency bias. Things like Chris says he can't play Julio, that type of thing. Do you guys have any guys like that? I'm trying to work through it myself, but I know we had that one chat when we were talking about Cooks in particular after his goose egg, and we still like, there was no part of us that was like, oh, nope, can't play Cooks. Like, I think that we all did a pretty good job at working through that. Do you guys have any, tips on working through recency bias? Like, it's something that I think I've come a long way for sure the last couple of years.
DJ Moore this week was kind of another one of those. Yeah. I'm done with DJ Moore. Someone was winning a GPP with Juju Smith-Schuster, so it can be tough because you want to adjust if there's role change and things like that. With DJ Moore, Robbie Anderson, they've been using the players differently. With Juju, there's some concerning signs. In general, I think if you have access to good projections, it helps a lot for you to see, kind of anchor yourself to a number and just realize that you shouldn't just be game log watching. But you do kind of want to, in your mind, try and go through why have things not worked out. Is the upside here? Or, is it just a floor thing? And
Well, and that's why, like, what you mentioned too is people are like the fields have gotten so sharp that they aren't game log watching, right? Like, if this was 3 years ago and Derrick Henry goes for a 40 burger, he would have been 30%
Yeah.
owned in these contests. Like, guy does good things, guy must continue to do good things. But to me, like the number, and it sounds overly simplistic, but we have two numbers that we can look at. And wherever, ETR has great ownership and projections, and Leone does a lot of the projections. You have two numbers. You look at the player's projection and you look at their ownership. And often those will tell a story. This week we were looking at Derrick Henry's and we're like, Derrick Henry still has a decent ceiling projection and his ownership is ridiculously low. This was like a reverse recency bias situation. But looking at those two numbers, you can often square this kind of perception disparity. And I think that really points you in the right direction of good plays or not.
0.3% Derrick Henry. Is there that many people that were scared off of this Pittsburgh defense? Like, I think that's part of it too, that I think that, like, we were talking about content earlier, we're so conditioned, people that haven't done any sort of writing, any sort of anything in content, you're like, oh, perfect, this team's #1 in DVOA, like, that's going in the article for sure. But like, there's some things, like, I understand that at the tails it probably matters a little bit more, but if you dig deeper into it, like this week we saw that Pittsburgh, like, they had some injuries in their kind of front seven, that maybe there is a Derrick Henry. I mean, Derrick Henry at sub 1% ownership, like, I don't care what defense he's playing, he's still a play, right? Like, I don't know, maybe I take that a little bit too far.
No, I think you're absolutely correct. I think something I was discussing with Andrew Wiggins on our Wake and Rake this morning, but people double count things a lot. I think you saw it with the KC game with the weather. If the projections and stuff, I mean, I don't want to just say you should always rely on projections because we know there's a lot of error there. But that as sort of like your general source to get associated with, one number as to how strong of a play is, these are taking a lot of these other things into account. So Derrick Henry, we knew what his projection was given that he was facing a really good defense. And it's not like it was a 10-point projection, it's still an 18-point projection while, some of the best backs are at 21, 22. And I think what happens is people look at two plays side by side and they'll say, well, give me the guy in the better matchup. And that's baked in already a lot of the time. So you end up, really double counting the matchup.
Yeah, and that's a good point, and it's something I've been especially guilty of in the past. And like a good example would be like over at ETR, you guys have the air yards by low model, which is like a really good way to identify players who are getting lots of opportunity, high value opportunity, and are going to maybe go underlooked because they haven't been showing up in the box score. But if you have good projections are going to say Terry McLaurin has the underlying peripherals that are going to give him a solid projection in a good matchup. But he's also #1 in the air yards by low model too. So it's not like, well, I'm adding 5 points to Terry McLaurin's projection. Like Mike's projection is already baking in how much target volume he's getting in the matchup. But it's a nice tiebreaker too. And generally, I think the air yards by low model in this specific instance is it's pointing to guys who might be undervalued by the market and might be contrarian plays. So you don't want to just say like, well, this guy's in the air yards by low model or this guy's in a pace up game. Well, it's like Mike's projections are already baking that in, but it's a nice like tiebreaker and it helps you contextualize the numbers you're looking at.
I normally don't I don't want to like engage with the chat and like be super combative, but like there's about 3 people in the chat that are just straight wrong right now. They're talking about 18 points from Henry doesn't get you there for his price tag. Okay, fine. He was 1% owned. The ceiling alone makes him a play to me personally. I understand that like there was someone in the chat that's like comparing him to Williams at half the price. I don't even see that as like a linear comparison. Do you guys like how can you compare the 4K running back who's going to touch the ball 20 times versus Derrick Henry? I just I don't really understand it.
The other thing with Henry, when he hits, he breaks off these 80-yard runs. Those aren't really predictable. I mean, wasn't the Jacksonville defense good that game when DeHember was born, and he had the 4 touchdown game against Jacksonville? Didn't they have a good defense at that point in time? I mean, it's hard to predict a grown-ass man busting off a 90-yard touchdown run. So, yeah, in certain matchups, he's going to get fed, but remember everyone played him against Jacksonville this year when they had a bad defense. We knew he was going to get fed, and he scored 9 DraftKings points. You know, it
Yeah.
works both ways.
First of all, Derrick Henry and Jamal Williams were not mutually exclusive. In fact, they were so not mutually exclusive that we played both of them. Second of all, to Mike's point, we are trying to attack these scenarios and correlate things that speed up the game. We played Deontay Johnson with Derrick Henry.
Yep.
Derrick Henry got there. And if, Deontay Johnson got there. And if Derrick Henry busts off another 80-yard touchdown, that's more volume for Deontay Johnson coming back potentially. So like we are thinking about these things from a ceiling perspective, an ownership perspective, and a game level correlation perspective. Of course, it didn't smash today, but like the thought process behind it is giving us access to outsized returns relative to the field in the outcome scenarios where it does hit. Let's say that hits once at every 5 times, 20% of the time. Okay, well, today was one of those 80% times it didn't hit. But on those 20% times that Derrick Henry goes for 40 and Deontay Johnson goes for 30, we're probably looking pretty damn good.
If Henry has last week's game, which I'm sure the chat will be like, oh, he couldn't have had last week's game because last week was a good DVP matchup and this was a bad one.
God.
I've got someone in chat saying, well, he would need to score 3 touchdowns. Have you met Derrick Henry? Have you seen Derrick Henry? But, you know,
Derrick Henry only scores 3 touchdowns when the moon is in a waxing crescent and they're playing a team with a top 3 DVP.
I said I wasn't going to tilt.
That's interesting,
this whole conversation's tilting me so hard right now.
We already mentioned how running back wasn't that good this week. These guys topped out at 20 points. If you get a 40 point from Derrick Henry, you've picked up 20 points in this contest in the Juke. We are 1 out of 347 teams that played Derrick Henry. We could have gained 20 points on every single team in the contest. That's insane. Those opportunities don't grow on trees. Like to be able to pick up 20 points based on one thing happening, it's you know, that's the exact dynamic that we're looking for. We'll take that dynamic, you know, and we'll the 4 times that he fouls because it's a really tough matchup, we'll eat it. But the time he goes off, we're going to win, and we're going to win more than we lost the other 4 times.
What are we better at projecting? What's going to happen on the football field or what our opponents are going to do with their lineups?
It's not close. We're much better at projecting the ownership, correct?
We're definitely a lot closer, and we know Derrick Henry has a ceiling regardless of who he plays. Like, yeah. And this earlier in the show, I said, people try to predict the future. That's not what we're trying to do. We can't predict the future. We know we can't.
Well, it also, like, think about it this way, guys. You have these contests and you have these prize pools. And we know that the majority of the money is in the top 1% or top 2% of these prize pools. We're literally needing a 1% or 2% outcome to win these. 98 or 99 out of 100 times it won't happen, but the time it does, you win first place. Of course, these are going to be low probability things, but if we're being smart about it and we're leveraging the field and leveraging ownership and we're looking at guys who actually have a ceiling, you didn't see us jamming in Russell Gage. We know Russell Gage doesn't have a 40-point ceiling. Everyone knows Derrick Henry has a 40-point ceiling. And if you tell us we could get him at 0.3% ownership, we're going to play him every single fucking week. Sorry.
Have we min cashed yet either? I mean, do we even give a shit about min cashes? I don't know if we've min cashed once this year.
I don't know, man. It was a terrible play though, because Derrick Henry got 18 points, man. The chat will let you know.
We've turned Joe's. It's complete.
I don't know, man. There was never a moment where I would tell you that a play was bad just because it didn't work out. That is not what we're trying to do here. There's a lot of things that tell me that's one of them though.
When plays it's matchups, man. When plays in good matchups work out, it was destined to happen. When plays in bad matchups don't work out, it was destined to happen. You know, and then we just completely ignore all the times it happens in between. And I think defenses matter. I'm not on hashtag defense doesn't matter, but I do think people gravitate towards the DVP too much.
Yeah. It's all right. This is the cross we bear as contrarian players who are trying to access the top 1% and 2% of prize pools.
Yes, let us lose all our money this week and last week and the week before it and continue to lecture you guys on why you're wrong.
No, and I mean we're not even telling people why you're wrong. We're just saying what our process is for our plays. Everyone should build how they want. And like to Leone's point, like I've been incredibly polarized. Like earlier this season, I had top 18 finish in the SPY, a top 3 finish. And then literally last week, I was second to last in the smaller SPY. I'm going to be bottom 5% in one of the SPYs this week. Those are the polls I want to live on. I don't want to be mid-cash Pete.
I am currently last in the Thunderdome by 28 points. And I feel great about my lineup, you know?
Yeah.
I really do. I mean, I have a Cowboys defense at 3% when 60% of the field played the Washington defense on the exact side of things. That's great leverage. Kyle Allen, I mean, obviously it didn't work out, but is there any scenario where you would say the Washington defense at $2,500 is a better play at 60% ownership than the Dallas defense at 3% ownership at $3,000?
No chance. Even if you were to get that right, you're still holding hands with literally half the field.
Yeah.
Even in the juke, it was 42%. Like a lot of these things, like even like we were looking at some of the ownerships in the luxury box, like even in the juke, the $400. I mean, it's a relatively sharp field because it's structured so well, and a lot of really good players are maxing this thing. But like, still, Derrick Henry 3% owned in this thing. I can't believe I'm making a Derrick Henry like case today. Like this
I
whole
don't even
day,
like Derrick.
This whole day has literally gone to shit. What a joke.
But I will honestly say, if you don't feel like you have the stomach to play these lower owned guys, and if you do want to just play the best plays, I have a game format for you, and they're called cash games. And you're allowed to play the best plays. It will be perfect for you. There's double ups. There's head to heads. I would even allow you to do 3-mans. You will love it. You can go play the best plays and you will have yourself a grand old time. You can try to grind out a 56% ROI if you're really good.
Sounds boring, man.
I just want to give the
your boy Noel is tilting me a little bit here though, Joe, because he had Slack.
He's trying to get you going. He's trying to get you going.
He's getting me going because he Slack messaged me yesterday about Burrow stacks. He's like, I'm about to watch your show, but I really like Burrow stacks. We literally cover Burrow stacks on the show, so I don't say anything because he's telling me he's gonna watch the show where we're like, play Burrow stacks. And now he's telling me that I would have played Burrow stacks if I read his Slack message.
I'll say this. If Noel is giving,
and I did play Burrow stacks.
If Noel is giving you shit, it just means that he literally like respects you more. He literally just won't even acknowledge most people. He didn't talk to me for like over a year, and then he finally like started chirping me, and then I realized that's just his way of trying to get to know you. So Noel, I got your back, brother.
Noel, I'm coming at you hard, man.
Oh my god! I thought this was gonna be like a fun show. Like now everyone's just like, you guys are donkeys. How could you ever play Derrick Henry?
Let's close the chat. Censorship.
Censorship.
There's a clip that is on the internet of Pete saying, "Oh, I love the chat. I love these guys. I know because I edited it.
I do love that. It is hard to like. Oh, go ahead.
Well, someone had a good question about they're having a tough time playing 2 guys in the bring back in a stack. And I think that's a specific scenario. You want to think through the price of guys, the upside of the game. And we brought back Jamal and Davante Adams because we thought with those guys being chalky, if we're using them in the same lineup, we want the game to go nuclear. And they can both get there. And they got there. Houston side just didn't do its job. But there are situations where let's say and then Cleveland was another good one with Cincinnati. Like you could have brought back Hunt and a cheap Cleveland tight end because the cheap tight end was so cheap basically at a position that you like to correlate that it's okay to bring 2 back. But I also played a lot of Allen stacks this week and I only brought back even 1 guy on some of them because the Jets suck. And I think the Bills can get there without the Jets putting up a fight. A lot of times when Allen rolls well, it's their steamrolling teams and they're pretty aggressive passing even when they're ahead. So it's really situation dependent. So I wouldn't make a hard and fast rule one way or the other on it.
It's like circling back to this thing. Like, so when we won our big hit 50,000 and Leone got us on the Joe Mixon play, which was like 3.4% owned. If we would have told you guys all in the chat before that week, we would have come on here. If we fire up a live stream and say, guys, we're playing Joe Mixon this week. You guys would have gone donkeys, fish, bad play, hasn't done anything, not going to better running backs on the slate. Why would you do that? No one has ever looked at a winning lineup and loved every single play before the game started. That's not how this works. We talk about like, how do we avoid recency bias? Well, not evaluating decisions solely on results would be a very good place to start.
I'm with you.
Someone that says too, I get this a lot too. Even when I won a GPP earlier in the year, they said, isn't your lineup too contrarian for that small of a field? And I think that's a huge misconception. Aaron in the chat says you only have to fade 2 or 3 plays to win the juke, like do a 2v2. I don't want just a 2v2. I don't want a cash game 2v2. We want to completely flip the build a lot of times. Now there's exceptions. A slate like this, we played a ton of Jamal Williams at 75%, and we were fine with that. We're not going to be closed-minded and just say, oh, chalk, we're not going to play it. But I don't want just a 2v2. I don't know about you guys, but I want to have a lot of outs. The more contrarian I am, the more outs I have, is the way I look at it.
Yeah. And the other thing too, like, I think people get so caught up on these like individual things. Like now people are talking about like, well, the Washington, how could you get off the Washington? If Joe, Mike, and I decided at the beginning of a lineup, we want to play Washington D, we could have played Washington D. We could have put them in there and we could have made subsequent decisions that justified that decision. But as Mike said, we ended up wanting to play Terry McLaurin in our flex, which we knew was going to be a chalkier option. He came in at 30%. And we're looking at an overall chalky build. Where's a great place to get contrarian at a position where the scoring is highly variant? At defense, we didn't want to eat the chalk at multiple positions. If we wanted to play Washington D as the cornerstone of our lineup, we damn well could have.
Aaron, you're pushing me, buddy, here with this. Well, good chalk is good chalk. Well, if good chalk was good chalk, the fucking good chalk would hit every single freaking week. I mean, we had Derrick Henry against Jacksonville in the best DVP matchup that was out there, scored 9 points when they were without AJ Brown, when they were without Darrington Evans. We had an entire week where we had, what was it that week with Jonathan Taylor, Kenyon Drake, and somebody else. And I think all 3 of them failed, and that I think might have been the Mixon week that we won, was when we didn't play Jonathan Taylor, who everyone said you had to play.
Guys, again, I'm gonna say this one more time. Taylor says, I just don't agree any chalk D is not good chalk. You can play literally any defense you want. You're looking at the overall cumulative ownership that you are putting in your lineup. If you wanted to go play a Gardner Minshew double stack, you can eat the Washington defense chalk in your lineup because you're not going to be chalky elsewhere. But if you're going and playing the Watson team and the Adams and the Jamal Williams, you probably don't want to be also playing the Washington football team. You want to know why? Because that's a cash game lineup.
We made it. We finally made it.
Taylor was defending us. Someone else was saying that Washington D was good chalk, and he was pointing out that no defense is ever good chalk, basically, which I agree with how variant it is. And then Nick Tolley asked, 72 entry game changer, 6 identical teams. What's your take on that?
It's great for us.
Awesome. That is amazing. That's the exact dynamic you want in tournaments. That's why I think this week's we take it on the chin, because that's a great setup. In the Thunderdome, I mentioned, where I'm dead last by 28 points, 3 people in a 30-man field have the same lineup. That's 10% of the field that I wipe out if I just beat that one lineup. And there were a lot of other lineups that were 2v2s off of that. And that's part of the reason why I don't want to be a 2v2 versus the chalk lineup, because now I've created a scenario where there's 2 sets of lineups that I can beat with one lineup. Then I turn a GPP into like something that I win 40% of the time.
Locket TD. Jesus.
Locket TD. I'm laughing because the name of the show, the Tilt Space, I thought we would be tilting like the games and the things that happen. And today we're just tilting the chat. This is the Tilt Chat Space. You guys are tilting the shit out of us because it's actually very smart on your part, because we do want this show to be very tilty. And I think because we had a few hours to kind of process the results, that we're not in the denial stage. We've moved on to the acceptance stage. We're on to week 8, but you guys are re-tilting us, and I'm fucking tilted now. And so this show is the tilt space.
I was over it, man. I was like ready to roll. Like you said, like we're actually thinking about this as if it was like yesterday at this point, because the slate started what 10 hours ago. So I'm with you, man. This is the best case scenario that could have happened here. It took us an hour and 15 minutes to get Leone upset. I've been upset for a little bit longer than that.
Oh, I'm pissed now, dude. And I took tomorrow off. It's not even a school night for me.
I have to go to the dentist tomorrow morning.
One more thing I want to touch on, though, that was earlier. So, like, all these things that we're talking about, how do we explain a very successful player like Empire Maker who only plays the optimal in everything? We have this thing going on with him and Asimo, which we can get into as well, that a lot of people want to talk about. But, like, from my perspective, like, there's very few people that can just literally roll one team on the, like, literally every contest on DraftKings and be profitable in the long term, and he's one of them. I personally am not one of those people that can just build one lineup and beat everyone with, like, just straight play the best plays. But he seems like a guy that people always want to bring up as, like, well, why don't you just play like Empire Maker and play the best plays all the time? I don't know. Where are you guys at on that?
Well, he's got out. I mean, he plays $250,000 in action.
Right.
So to him, taking the time for the 5K Thunderdome, he doesn't give a shit. You know, he'll play his cash game lineup, and that's fine. You know, for him, it's not worth the added mental effort when he's got 250K out to worry about this lineup that's such little of his bankroll. For me, this Thunderdome's a pretty big deal. I care, and I'm kind of, glad to play again. I mean, he played a Watson naked, 3 Saints guys with no bring back. The ownerships were really high on most of his guys. He had in his lineup, 6 out of 9 guys at 60% or more. I'm okay playing against those lineups. And I think he's the best at what he does, which is why he's able to win a little bit more consistently than other people doing that. But you have to be really, really good at how he's playing to get those kind of returns. I don't necessarily have to be really good at what I'm doing to get good returns because, I'm differentiated so much.
You know what you sounded like, talking about Empire Maker? You sound like just a liberal nerd beta boy cuck.
That is a good point, though, that, like, realistically, what does he care about the Thunderdome when he's got $250,000 in play? A large chunk of that is probably in, like, higher stakes cast games, higher stakes 3-mans, all of that stuff. So, like, when you add all that together, like, what's a Thunderdome entry, right? I don't know. It's part of it.
Yeah. That's how I treat my $3.20 max showdown lineups. It's Empire Maker level for me. I'm just tossing them in there. Who cares?
Is there any more? I'm trying to figure out the best way to word this.
No, don't. Just say it right off the dome.
Full screen, buddy. Just go.
Oh, I'm full screen.
Yeah, everyone can see your entire background right now. I wasn't sure if you were going to clean it up for us today, but it appears not.
I mean, I just feel like hashtag playing the chalk to own the libs doesn't really.
It doesn't square out.
It doesn't really square out,
Right. I just didn't know that
that's not an alpha move.
I didn't know I should become less of a nerd and more of a jock so I can start crushing at DFS again. I feel like I've gotten too nerdy now. I'm starting to use shit like projections. It's like I should just ball out, dude. Just jam the opto like a true jock.
Yeah, I just don't know why we didn't play Lockett and Devontae Adams in every single lineup.
Tough scene.
I know. How did we not?
If we played Lockett, we were just playing Nuke though. So is that some sort of leak? We just refuse to play these little mini stacks. I don't know. We've had way too much educational stuff for it today. I think we've lost some people at this point. They come here for the tilt.
Yeah. It was like DFS has become this game within a game. We talk about the meta narratives, the out leveling. That's now the tilt space. The tilt has a whole different meaning now.
Us against the chat. I don't mind that.
Yeah. I like what I guess it is interesting. The show has a different feel this week doing it later because we have had a lot of time to process stuff where, like, when we go live on our normal show, like we normally have a higher percentage of the slate is still unfolding. Whereas like 90% of the slate, 95% or whatever of the slate was already done. So I do think the show is different, and we're more like the show I do on Mondays where I look back on my specific lineup, like Wiggins does these, Holka, you review your lineups. Like this is kind of more the, I was going to say sober analysis, maybe not the best word choice there, but the kind of rear view mirror looking at what happened. Whereas right now we're like straddling that, where we're kind of like looking back, but we're still relatively in the thick of it, and people are still sweating lineups. And they're wanting to talk about very specific decisions. And I'm already ready to like evaluate it from a macro perspective.
People are baiting me, man. People in the chat right now, they're like, Joe Holka, the new Derrick Henry fan. This is the worst, man. I can't even. I'm re-tilting right now. I'm re-tilting. Yeah.
We love you guys. Thank you for tuning in, though. We, we're still we're messing around with the show. We could have gone live at our normal time at 6:30, but we like being live as the games wrap up here, and so we shifted it. And little did we know we would get a new definition of tilt tonight.
I said I didn't care about min cashing, but the week I'm having, I got this one team. I need some nuke action here because I'll take a min cash, I think.
All right, yeah.
The teams are coming back from the dead right now.
Yeah.
Well, you guys have anything else educational, or can I go to bed?
Joe, like, why don't you want to tell the people about your mimosa spill today? I mean,
oh my God, do we want to go there? Okay. So as if today couldn't have got any worse, I guess. The way I started my slate is obviously I finish up my 18 shows on Sunday morning, and then I get my bearings, and I go out and I make a nice mimosa. My girlfriend has one ready for me. What a gal. Also, she's sitting there watching some random show that I've never heard of. So we put football on. Instantly, football probably hasn't been on for 5 minutes. And she gets up to leave because she doesn't want to watch. And she knocks over a full, like an aggressive pour mimosa right all over our like light tan couch. So it's everywhere. And instantly, not only is this really bad, this is the worst because if that was me that did that, she probably would have like just left and not talked to me for months. But the fact that it was her, somehow it was my fault. Can you explain this to me? Peter, as a married man, can you explain to me how I was nowhere near the mimosa in question, yet our couch being, probably destroyed, honestly, is somehow my fault. I'm still trying to wrap my head around it.
Her
she probably hears me right now
for it being your fault?
Well, I should have been there, right? I shouldn't have handed her the mimosa while she was sitting on the couch, clearly, right?
Will she, any chance she watches this show?
Probably not. She came on like week 1 when we were all happy and winning money. She doesn't care about us when we lose.
If there's a chance she watches this show, it does sound like you messed up, man.
Yeah. So here's where I went wrong. And Pete, this is as a married man, you probably know this. I tried to help by cleaning it, but apparently you never scrub, you dab. Like dabbing is the thing, right?
I told you that
Pete,
in the Discord.
This is new to me. Apparently I made a big mistake.
Oh yeah, you got to get the cloth towel damp and you dab, because if you spread it and wipe, you're just spreading it all around.
Confirmed. Yeah.
So the Cardinals are running the clock out on themselves. It's really impressive. It's almost like
establish the run to own the libs, man.
Drake is hurt, apparently.
Well, time for that Chase Edmonds play we made in Showdown to pay off.
Leone's trying to suck up to the chat right now. He's literally in the chat saying, give me the min cash. Like, man, you're trying to play both sides. It's either you're with us or you're with the chat. Like, pick your role right now, bro.
God, I'm sorry you can't read sarcasm.
Yeah, Leone's over there, saddling up with the chat. No, fuck you, chat.
Someone needs some diplomacy around here.
So good. Chris, for the record, you're the only one that I let talk to me that way, but I appreciate it.
Karane's in the chat saying I was just so. I'll be honest, I was in a bad place right before the afternoon games, and Crane's asking me about these swaps on a team that doesn't have Davante Adams, and I was just like, I don't think it matters, man.
If you guys don't know Karane, he's the slappy that won $10,000 playing Derrick Henry last week.
I do think he kept his Lockett team, though. I basically said you just need someone to hopefully match Adams, and someone beat Adams, and it was Tyler Lockett. But I was like, I just didn't know what to tell. Sometimes there's just not much you can do on the late swaps.
Well, and it goes back to that thing we are talking about earlier, where it's like your own risk tolerance. Like, are you trying to lock in a 2 or 3x, or do you have the stomach to swing for something bigger?
Also, I think sometimes people think too much of it as like chalk versus non-chalk. The one thing I was trying to say was the chalk piece went off, right? But at that point, you need someone to match him. You just care about the ceiling. You're not trying to get different too much. If you know what I mean, I don't know if I'm explaining that right, but
Yeah.
you're not beating a Devonte Adams team because you went, a little bit you in a tournament. Your only way you're beating a Devonte Adams team in a tournament is if two wide receivers late go absolutely nuclear, regardless of what their ownerships are.
Yeah. Vincent says, I was hoping Swift went nuclear so I could thank Pete. Well, Swift had a very nice game, and I actually would appreciate it if you would thank me. It feels like the chat is just pushing back against everything I'm saying. So if everyone could thank me for my Swift call last week, it was ahead of its time. It was revolutionary. It was so progressive that even I didn't play it myself, and that's what made it so special.
Revelatory.
Oh my god, dude. Just can you imagine that he just goes completely nuclear? We have him on our team. Like, that would have been the best thing ever, but you just couldn't. You literally didn't bring him up to us once the entire morning. I'm just so disappointed, man. I'm still not over it. We're basically on week 8 at this point. We're talking about a week 6. Like, Peter's just holding back all the Swift goods from us.
So Chris asks, would you have pivoted 40 points back from Carson to Lockett? Yeah, because that's
100%.
where I'm saying at that point you need the ceiling, and I think Lockett clearly has the higher ceiling than Carson. Like, even take away what happened, wouldn't you say Lockett has a higher ceiling than Carson?
I think so. If you thought that, I think
So
that Carson would have made more sense if Carson was gonna be like 5%, but you knew he was gonna be like closer to 12 to 15, right?
I think Carson makes sense if you're in a position where you kind of need to leverage the game. But I guess what I'm saying is when you get to a certain point where a certain amount of points back, you just need the ceiling in there. Who cares if Carson leverages the game sucks and Carson gets you 25.
You're not lapping Adams teams.
Yeah, who cares? Yeah. I mean, we care about that in situations where our stacks early did okay. No one broke the slate. We're in pretty good shape. We need this game to not go off. That's where we need Carson, where we pick up the leverage. Hopefully he does very well. He's one of the better running backs, and this game doesn't go off. That's where Carson makes a ton of sense. When you need pure ceiling, it doesn't mean just take the lower owned guy, though.
Yeah, and that actually tripped me up. And you made a good point about that this morning, Leone, because I was like, I like the Carson play because I was thinking about it as leverage, but the ownership ended up coming around pretty similar to those wide receivers. And I agree with you that he doesn't have the ceiling that those guys have. So the thesis of my Carson play was kind of busted. And that, I didn't really have a lot of late swap optionality. I guess you could have gone Drake Lockett. Like, I had Kirk Carson teams. I guess I could have pivoted it to Drake Lockett, but again, it feels like I was probably flipping coins there. Although the chat, do you think I should have pivoted to Drake Lockett? I'm just curious what the chat thinks on that one.
You know what's crazy? Like the Seattle Arizona game. So what? We're closing in.
There's a game going on right now.
Yeah, we're closing in on 60 combined points. Did anyone think this game would be high scoring? Like, I think that had to have been a hot take this week, right? Seattle Arizona sounds like it.
Can we get some more DeAndre Hopkins, please?
Tough, man. Tough game. I'm surprised anyone wanted to play players from this game. Like, people stacked this game up. That was a thing.
Apparently.
Weird.
Let's get DeAndre Hopkins like 10 more points. Easy peasy.
Casual 51.5
I would like
for Lockett.
I would like to lose.
What are you trying to min cash right now, Leone?
I'm trying to min cash the check down so that I lose 90% of my money on the week and not 90%.
He's made his way all the way back in the Thunderdome to a min cash sweat right now.
No, the Thunderdome is, if you're not first, you're last, and we took that to heart.
Correct.
Oh man, Kyler just made a sweet play, and then Isabella dropped the ball.
Yeah, I want to address something now that I feel like I'm fucking like a tout, which now I feel like I need to like address these things. So Racif says, Pete, on the Friday show with Denny, you said Lockett is my guy this week, and it's crazy you barely played him. So first of all, like, I end up making 5 lineups is what I make on my own. And I believe I had Lockett in 2 of those 5 lineups this week. And as one thing that Leone and Joe and I talk about a lot is we have a lot of plays. Like, this was a great GPP slate. Like, there were so many different plays. Like, I had all these secondary correlations, these different stacks I wanted to get in. When you're game stacking, it's one of the reasons we played Cam Newton last week, because we love jamming in all of these secondary plays that you can't do with a full game stack. So, like, when I say I like a guy, it doesn't mean I'm going to be able to get him in everywhere. Like, the way I don't like to play like the lock button, like 4 guys kind of thing. Like, I like having 1 or 2 guys. This week it was obviously like Jamal Williams. And then I spread around from that. So, like, just because I like a guy doesn't mean I'm going to be able to play him in every single one of my lineups. Like, there's so many different factors at play with salary and ownership and contests and stacks. So yes, I apologize for a play I said that I liked that went off for 50 points. I didn't play him in every one of my lineups. Take me to court.
How dare you?
Well,
so
some of us played Mike Davis in almost all of our lineups this week.
So Leone, if we brick everything this week, what are we at? We're at like 52 roughly of our 15K bankroll. 53K. All right. So this next week, they actually do have some contests up. We have a Mega Millionaire contest, $1,000 entry, 3,300 people. How many of these are we playing?
1, 2, 3.
What? Pete has come a long way. Pete's eyes just lit up.
Now.
He's ready.
Back in the other direction.
It's 100 max. Chris, we might need to stay.
So let's think about this. Let's think about this. So we're at 38K profit. If we played 3 in this, and that was just our contest for the week, we're 35K. That's a nice clean number if we dunk these off. I mean, 1 in 3,333 chance at $1 million.
We will have $1 million sweat next week. We have to.
The structure of this is an absolute joke.
I don't care. Have you looked at the structure of our lineups? We're playing for first, baby.
1.5x min cash, barely pays 20% of the field. It's a $1,000 entry. It's got 10% rake. It's 33% to first, top 10, 51%. This is the worst tournament I've ever seen, and we're gonna play it. We're gonna play it.
Chat, let me see megas. Let me see megas in the chat if you want it.
Literally
let me see
the worst tournament I've ever seen.
Honestly, though, I mean, any millionaire maker is a horrible payout, but second through 10th is actually kind of flat. It's just the drop off from first, which you expect in a million maker.
It's mega time, baby.
Yikes.
Yeah, we're doing 3 entries in this thing.
Are we playing the juke next week? You told me we were playing the juke, that I could play the juke, and then I'm sorry, I've got all my lineups in the juke, and you guys are like, "Oh no, we're playing that for the tilt space." So then I had to scale up my action to the 7-7-7 when I was trying to play the juke. Had one of my worst weeks of the year, yet I've got double the action I normally have. So that was. Can we not do that? Can we have a plan here? Can we plan one thing? Plan.
Listen to me. 3 in the mega, 1 in a 777. What do you think?
Well, let's just do 3 in the mega. Like, why even bother with the 777 at that point?
You are,
because I want to make 4 lineups.
You are the worst kind of psycho. Can you imagine if we have a 777 lineup that would have shipped the mega milli? How dumb would we feel? I don't know how you guys mentally get through that. I still can't do it. There's no way.
What do you mean?
No, here's what we do. Let's do 3 in the. Why don't we do 3 in the juke, and why don't we just dupe the same 3 in the juke that we play in the milli?
Done.
And then we got him in a small field. Yeah, 4,200
we'll play it in the $10 milli too.
And then we'll go nit for set after we brick next week.
That's the play. We're not playing. We're not playing a 7-7-7 and then just not throwing it in the $1,000 milli. Are you kidding me? I can't believe you just said that, man. It gives me anxiety even thinking about it, and we're a week away from the slate starting.
Only Joe could have FOMO about his own lineups.
Man, the good news about editing this highlight video, if there is a highlight video, is I can fast forward through the first 40 minutes when we're all relaxed. I got tilted quickly.
Oh, there was a shift. This isn't like so last week you made a highlight video. This week is like a time lapse. It's like a tale of 3 halves. There was just chilling, retrospective, educational talk. Then there was the chat sending us to Mega Tilt. And then we evolved past that, and we were on to week 8.
Did anyone think Christian Kirk was a good play this week? Never heard anyone mention him.
Let's see it.
We played him.
I listen to a lot of content, read a lot of stuff written on Wednesdays. I didn't hear one person talk about Christian Kirk.
Really?
Is Pat still watching? He tried to get me to take Christian Kirk out of one of our lineups for Gabriel Davis. Good thing I put the kibosh on that.
God. I mean, I was really high on Gabriel Davis.
Kirk might have been in the first look for anyone that checked that one out. Kirk might have been the first.
Well, I feel like, Crane has, Davis does this too. Davis Maddock. These guys, they fall in love with some of these deeper prospect type guys. So when they get their opportunity, they feel, pot committed that they have to absolutely go all in on them.
Pete, you can't relate to that, right? Like just falling in love with a prospect and just like forcing him into your lineups. That's never happened.
No, I've never done that. I do just want to give an update, and I will talk about this tomorrow. So I was checking in my SPY. So there are 5,555 people. I finished 5,490th this week with my Josh Allen double stack. That's what we do, baby. First or last. That's where we live, on the polls.
There's a couple points being scored in this game. Weird.
Yeah, we are at 65 total points.
That FF World Series thing we're in, Gretchen and I are trying to hang on to first by taking 0-0 at running back this week.
What's that? The World Series. Oh no, I saw that. There's like specific teams, right?
Yeah, it's pretty cool.
It's really cool, yeah.
So there's 4 different, well, I think there's 5 different segments, but there's 4 main segments. They're each 4 weeks long. The first 4 weeks was, a traditional draft. And then you redraft a whole new team for the next 4 weeks. And the quirk for this one was it was best ball. So Gretchen and I did a hyper fragile strategy, and we took just Mixon, Sanders, because neither of them had a bye, and Jonathan Taylor. But Jonathan Taylor had a bye this week, and Mixon and Sanders both got hurt. So that hurt.
Joe, was Leone full screen for that?
For half of it. I'm trying to tilt and produce at the same time, and I'm doing my best.
I'm just making sure that everyone saw that.
I need another. This apple cider and whiskey was really good.
Dude, had you never done that combo before?
I don't know. It was particularly good tonight though.
Leone, I'm
not giving you credit for telling me.
I opened a bottle of wine so that we could literally just like drink red wine together, and then you just like completely bailed on what you've done all year. You gotta give me a heads up, man. It's like us both showing up to the party in the same t-shirt, and then the one week that I come and like I embrace it, you're like off the board. I don't understand.
Each of the last 2 weeks, I had my sour beers the last 2 weeks, but I'll red wine with you next week.
I think that's the plan.
We should have you guys want to have Italian night on the tilt space?
Ooh, a little spaghetti parm.
When the sun meets your eye, it's a big pizza pie. It's a tilt space.
Oh, Mingya.
Oh my god. We gonna see this thing through, boys? Who has a sweat?
We might as well at this point. Sorry, Joe, you gotta stay up.
I just get to sit here and just watch.
No, Joe's on a different time zone than us.
I'm tilting, but I'm no longer returning $0, so that's positive.
I'm getting back. I'm getting back some. I actually keep climbing.
I've gotten back like half of my entries, so I'm gonna stop tilting. That's actually like the best case scenario of what this game started at.
Yeah. I mean, it could be a lot worse. I could have finished last in the Thunderdome, you know?
by a substantial margin.
Sam K says mimosas
look
next
at that.
week.
Like, did Leone forget to submit a lineup? Oh, no, he's putting a real lineup.
TTP, baby. TTP.
Yeah, like all the dummy lineups with DeAndre Swift last week. There's no way those were real. There's no way. Mimosas next week for the Millie Sweat. Sam, I like where your head's at in the chat. Sam, we can get along. The rest of the chat, we're not friends today.
Maybe if we do mimosas, Joe's gonna have to put down a full set of tarps in his office.
Can we?
Hey, but I'm a veteran now. I know to dab and not rub. It's huge, man.
Yeah.
I'm making a lot of progress. I'm playing wide receivers in my flex. I'm playing Derrick Henry. I'm dabbing. I'm not rubbing. This is like I'm making progress.
I want to hear it from the chat.
Yeah, no, we do, because we were talking about this before. You guys are on Team Mimosa. I'm on Team Bloody Mary. Where are your brunch drink allegiances? Hit me with the bloodies in the chat.
Tough, bro.
Tomato juice is gross.
Hang on. This is what you want. If you're on Team Bloody, you do Mega Marys. And if you're on mimosa, you do mega mimosas. Mega
Pete,
mimosas
I'm
versus
going to
mega.
tell you how to do something here. I know that this is the YouTube
poll?
streaming thing that you do. This is the poll. So anyone in the chat right now, if you're on Team Mimosa, I want you to put a 1 in the chat.
No, I think this is so dumb. Right?
Why?
Fucking mega mimosa or
No,
mega
dude, we
Mary.
have to be able to see this in the chat and actively be able to get a feel for where we're at.
Yes, I can get a feel based on how many mega Marys I see.
I don't like
what's the
it.
difference?
I don't like it.
I'm confused though what the difference is too. I thought there was going to be
There's no difference, Joe.
Maybe you're right. I don't know. I don't even care
What
anymore.
do you mean? Maybe you're right.
I don't even care anymore.
Just Joe, in your head,
No,
every
no
time you
numbers.
see
Numbers don't count. If I see a 1 or 2, this isn't the Matrix. This isn't binary.
All my ones in the chat. I appreciate you.
Oh,
Right now.
Get
binary
outta
code's
here.
ones and zeros.
Get the numbers out of here.
You're not a nerd if you. I mean, come on. It's not ones and zeros. I think in Holka's head, every time you see Mega Mimosa, think 1. I don't know. I don't even remember.
Regardless, can we
hope
agree that
Arizona
Peter
gets the
got
ball back,
destroyed in this poll?
No. I'm
It's not even close.
swinging it back on my own accord.
It's not even close. You're literally spamming the chat and you're still losing.
So the one I like the idea of a Bloody Mary. Like they look like fun to make with
They're
olives.
fun.
I also
Grow
I
up.
like spice, so I like the idea of a spicy Bloody Mary, but I cannot get past the tomato juice. And mimosas are just, I mean, they're do a man mosa,
It's phenomenal.
throw some vodka in there and some vodka, champagne, and orange juice. You can step it up a notch.
I know you guys
Let's
are
not
both
make
married,
these-
but like I know Pete's spent some time on TikTok before, so you should know how to make a good mimosa, man. You know, like the TikTok where they just
I
they go,
know how to make a good mimosa, but I don't want to. I want to make a good Bloody Mary.
This is a bad look, man.
I wanna
You've had
put a
some takes in
big-
your day. This is one that I cannot get on board with.
I'm not like, I definitely have some bad takes. Liking Bloody Marys is not a bad take.
Over mimosas, I disagree.
Yeah, Bloody Marys are
Okay,
so
so
superior.
We're gonna have an Italian night and a breakfast night.
Is this game
right?
going to overtime? Can I go to
Breakfast
bed?
night.
Well, we can do bloodies.
Wait, is this game
Mimosas.
going to overtime?
Oh my god! All the
No, we
main,
need-
all the
Arizona
mega
needs to get the big
onslaught
stock.
stacks are gonna win everything.
Yeah. The
Hang
fish
on.
trains got
This
there.
might not be a total loss yet. What if we just like see this thing through till overtime until we actually start to? Leone's gonna climb his way back.
If you
in
guys
the
need to go to
Thunderdome.
bed, I'll handle the chat. I know these. I know how to corral.
No,
we just
hot
ripped
committed.
Leone for being nice to the chat. Now you're being nice to the chat. I'm the only one. Now the chat's only against me. You guys
Well,
abandoned
he's
me.
trying to get his votes. He's trying to earn votes. That's why he's being nice.
I'm confused by the
I'm on
votes
the
'cause it's not
campaign.
What's
ones
a
and twos in
Caesar?
the
What's a
chat.
Caesar?
Tough
I've
saying
heard that before. What's a Caesar?
Caesar is
A
like a
Caesar
Canadian
salad?
version of a Bloody Mary. It's like slightly
Caesar
different. The only reason I know that is because I lived in Canada for 3 years. Like Caesar's, it's like Clamato juice. It's like slightly different. Anyone in the chat wants to tell me I'm wrong. Maybe I am. I know it's very similar though.
Put ones if I'm wrong. Put threes if I'm right.
I want to see the square root of 16 if you guys agree with Joe. Arizona, big stop. They're getting the ball
It's a
back.
bad take.
Can we
bad.
bet? Joe, let's make a bet right now. I'll
Okay.
bet you this game goes to overtime. $100.
I think I'm like 9 minutes on delay right now. I didn't realize that.
God, you are such
Yeah,
a
see, Leone's
loser.
like the sports books when they put up their live lines and they're a little bit delayed. They're getting a bit of an
Leone's
edge.
trying to squeeze
I'm
out every
delayed.
little bit
I
of
already
ROI
told
he
you
can.
Arizona's
this
getting the ball. Fine, I'll bet you $100 it doesn't go to overtime.
Oh, this guy really wants to put it on.
I haven't been watching this game the entire time we've been on stream. Literally.
Oh my God,
All
I'm
right.
giving you your
Hang
choice
on.
of sides.
I got a lot on my plate right now.
Is that a
man.
new blanket or the same one as before?
No, it's the same. Oh, it just got flipped on. But I do have 2 of these. There's
Yeah.
a funny story behind this blanket. So we were in Nashville for the Roto Grinders Super Bowl party, and we went to this hotel after, and it was like an outdoor on like the rooftop, and it was cold out, and so they had these blankets there. And so my wife and I are snuggling under the blanket, and first of all, Head Chopper is blowing me up on Twitter. Says I've never seen Pete this vulnerable. So it became my vulnerability blanket. But my wife loved these blankets so much that she looked them up and then ordered them. And now we have 2 of these blankets that we sampled at a Nashville hotel, which is just a great story to tell 2.5 hours into a live stream.
I didn't listen to a word you said.
I know. I could tell no one was listening, but the chat was, and they appreciate this story. DKNY blanket, if you guys want to know. I am an affiliate influencer for DKNY blankets. Use promo code TiltSpace.
Nice of Terry McLaurin.
I'm trying to black out the chat right now because I want to see what happens before the chat does. So I've covered up the chat with an elaborate Excel sheet.
What a nerd. What a beta lib cuck nerd.
You got to bring back the what was those things you did with Denny?
Fantasy Mensa?
Facts and logic.
Oh, facts and you've been destroyed by facts and logic.
Foster Island of Morocco.
Foster Island of Morocco.
Oh, fancy drop it. Go. Look at Fitz hand the ball to the official. What a vet move.
Dude, people cream all over themselves when he does that. They're like, oh my God, look at the awareness. Only a man that's been in the NFL for 400 years would know to do that.
I love when they do that when guys go out of bounds. Like 8-year-olds playing Madden know to go out of bounds. Although Todd Gurley tried to not score a touchdown today and the team lost the game. And didn't that happen in college yesterday too? Twice teams intentionally let the other team score and ended up winning.
Chris Hinch on the chat says Leone can cover up the chat, but he can't cover up his craft room.
So good.
That's comment of the night. I always like to give one craft room comment in here.
Let's see if we got anything.
It's a nice looking chat back there.
Is Leone wearing pajamas? Oh my God. I mean, I'm wearing sweatpants, but he's wearing like straight up flannel pajamas.
What is that?
A little gingerbread Lego house up there. It's not really crafts, but you know.
Is this what I have to look forward to?
Once you're done spilling mimosas, you can start building some gingerbread homes.
What do we got? I'll show you some.
People want to know what's in the Target bag for some reason. The bullseye, I think, is pulling them in.
Yeah, suck on this up here in the craft room. I don't know if you guys can see that.
Oh, we're going to OT. Are we in this one for the long haul?
Oh.
I mean, I am, but I famously took tomorrow off.
I might have to pour another drink. Can you guys handle the chat?
Yeah, come. Do you think I can handle these guys?
All right, I'm literally taking my headphones off. You and Leone are on screen. I will be right back.
I'm like a sheepdog, and I'm just corralling the chat. I run around them and herd them.
I checked the Target bag. I'm gonna get in so much trouble if I open
God,
these.
Dude. Are you guys are people gonna trick or treat this year?
Oh, we talked about we're doing a scavenger hunt in our house. Like we're like it's like an Easter egg hunt, Halloween style.
Okay,
is what we're gonna do.
So yes,
we
the
put
chat
these in like Halloween eggs.
Leone, we're getting overtime.
I want to see the kick. Literally, just fucking said I wanted to see the kick.
I'm sorry, I spoiled it for PJ Boy.
I guess Mike is living well. I don't even know why he's getting these Hot Wheels.
What was that? Was in the Target bag?
Yeah, the Hot Wheels and the candy. Like a big haul for Micah, apparently.
Dude, Mike is crushing it, man. Micah's got to trust the process. He's had a few down months, but you know the big Target score was coming.
What'd I miss?
We were checking out
what was in the bag?
In the craft room. There was Hot Wheels and candy.
Nice. We're in this one, I think. This is gonna be the one that escalates a little bit, and then I'm gonna have to call in sick tomorrow too. Chris, I'm not coming in tomorrow.
Do you guys want to do a shot?
Can I tell you guys something?
Yeah, this is a safe space. It's a tilt space.
These are the pajamas I put on last night.
Oh my God, this is disgusting.
This Sundays really are not a great look for me as far as being a human being and productive for society.
Yeah.
And productive as a family member.
Sundays are rough.
Oh, people want to see some more cards? Okay.
Let's see some more of these pajamas as well.
What sport do you want to see?
I want to see.
1 for baseball, 2 for basketball.
No,
3 for
stop it.
football.
Let's see some
All right.
NFL cards.
Heads or tails?
Okay.
Who's got it? Yeah, Chris says you got to get some sacks. I agree with that statement. That changed my life. I was a straight Lulu only guy, and now I literally only wear sacks when I'm working.
Do you know what I realized? So I, it got cold, so I turned over my closet, to get out my winter stuff, and I'm putting away all of my like summer polos and stuff. And I was like, I didn't wear any of this. I literally I wore shorts and sweats all throughout quarantine. Like I have not worn a pair of, I've worn a pair of jeans once over the past 7.5 months. What is it? Is that Gasecki?
Ooh.
Yeah.
Oh, that's nice, dude.
I got one. This one's really nice card, and Crane's gonna like it. This is just numbered out of 3 from National Treasures.
Noah Fant?
No.
Oh, Sutton?
Sudden patch with the nice
Rest in peace, dude. Wow.
symbol.
Dude, Dink tried to send me a predatory trade offer for Sutton in our Dynasty League.
Dink went to vote yesterday in New York City and was in a 4-hour line and didn't eat. And apparently he's blaming that for sending a lot of bad trade offers.
He's just sitting in line.
I'm gonna tell him we're talking about what was the trade offer, because he sent Drewby a really, really bad one.
So he was trying to pawn off Juju on me he wanted Cortland Sutton and a pick for Juju. It honestly wasn't that bad, but I would have to log on and look at my team and know if I should do it or not. And it seemed like a lot of work.
He's having a rough dynasty because he drafted Juju. Well, DJ Moore did great this week, but he's had one of those weeks that just tests your moral fiber.
Yeah.
One of those starts to the season, I should say. I bought someone's asking me I got the cards.
Yeah, Leone, how's our showdown team?
Oh, the team that we duped 6 times, as we're telling everyone to be contrarian in the main slate, and then in the most volatile game possible, we duped a team 6 times.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
I bought a box of National Treasures football to open. The basketball cards, though, I bought individually on eBay.
I'm gonna get another Coors Light for the home stretch, baby.
Hey, we're min cashing, so we're only losing a little bit on showdown.
Gotta put my headphones back on. Did I hear a min cash? Did I read your lips that were min cashing?
Min cashing the duped 6 team.
It's huge, man.
Lineup,
survive in advance, brother.
$275, but we also entered 3 teams at $180 a pop. So if you are good at math, we're losing more than 50%.
That's not what my app says. It says I'm currently winning. Okay.
Oh, am I gonna grade them? Yeah, Dominic, I've never sent things in for grading. I want to. I'm like, but I actually invest in this site called Star Stock, which is doing some really cool things. You guys should check out Star Stock. So I'm gonna send a lot of my cards into there, and they do kind of like a soft grading, and it's they turn into a virtual marketplace, so it's really neat.
Did any of us cash the spy this week?
I just told you I was in literally 6th out of last place at 5,000.
I might have cashed the spy. Did you cash the spy, Leone?
No, I played the team. I played in the Thunderdome.
Oh, that was your Thunderdome team?
Yeah.
Fair enough.
My Thunderdome team has
DK
less
Metcalf
points
that's about to
than
change
Tyler
too.
Lockett and Devontae Adams.
Yikes. Huge sack, someone says. Who has the ball?
Dude, this is so gross. So in the $3.20 max, which is one of my 62 teams duped for first place right now.
You say the 320 max?
No. Things haven't been going that great, Jeff.
How'd you pull that one off?
$3.20 max. Hey, chat, can you guys all put a spoiler in front if you're going to talk about stuff that happens? Because Leone wants to watch it live. So if you could just put spoiler alert before all your messages, and also hashtag Mega Marys.
Oh, so Michael likes to come up.
We got to figure out a way to not have the delay in chat.
Working, so I have Luke Skywalker and the Joker.
Put them up next
Just
to the
randomly
camera.
on my desk.
Let me see them. I like those.
Yeah,
I used to have some little guys like that.
I like the Legos. I still like doing them. I got some Star Wars
Oh,
stuff.
let me show you some Legos. I got some
Oh,
football
hell
Legos.
yes. Hey, Jamarius, spoiler alert. I can still see what you wrote after spoiler alert. It doesn't help.
Chris Hinshaw's on Team Mimosas, obviously.
Yeah, of course he is.
We like
He
Chris.
knows.
Yeah. So these are, I got a Devontae Parker Lego and an Amari Cooper Lego.
Nice.
Yeah.
Why are they both number 1?
I don't know. That actually was kind of upsetting to me. I'm guessing that they went into production before their jerseys were assigned.
Oh. Crane actually asked a legitimate question. If we looked at our ROI basically, or our hit rates by what the winning score is, and he suspects we do better when the score is lower. I suspect we do better when the score is lower as well, but I haven't actually looked into that because I have a life, Corain.
No, that's actually, it is interesting because that intuitively makes sense, right? If the chalk fails, lower scoring week, the contrarian lineups can lap those teams easier. That said, like our 2 like winning weeks were the popular, or what we thought was gonna be a popular Dak double stack where that went off, and the Russ double stack when that went off too. So those were pretty high scoring games, but I guess I don't remember how high scoring the week was on the whole.
The chat's baiting us right now. Hard.
I think Anthony just set the new tagline for the show. This is the saddest tilt. This is the saddest tilt space I've ever seen.
Is that what we changed the name to? Do we need a new thumbnail? Pete, make us a thumbnail. Your thumbnails have been fire lately, so we need a new one.
You like my thumbnail game? Well, I've been getting tutorials.
Yeah, I need help.
You just showed your Lego collections. Pretty sure you could look into it. Touche.
You want to know what the dumbest thing about YouTube is? I made a thumbnail this week that had Gio Bernard on it and said, "This changes everything." It's the most views I've ever gotten on a video. All you people out there.
Here's what begs the question.
Clickbait is not optional.
Here's what begs a question. We have to be here. We've decided that we have to be here, but you're watching it. So what's more sad? You can voluntarily leave, but you won't because you don't know what we're pulling out next. Maybe I pull out my stuffed animal that I had from childhood in an Oshkosh overalls named Mishmash that my wife just found in the basement the other day. Maybe I go get that. You don't know. That's the kind of shit, the kind of spontaneity that happens on the tilt space.
For the record, K10 in the chat is one of my favorite humans because he likes when I play video games on stream, but also he has some Vernon Viper hockey cards. That was our biggest rival in juniors. I know no one cares about that, but I do, KK10. You should burn those immediately.
No spoilers, please, because I'm another 45 seconds behind you, Leone. So you can't have your spoiler cake and eat it too.
I literally said while the ball was in the air, don't tell me. And you said we're going to overtime. I mean,
I don't really. I'm more interested in Legos and candy and mimosas.
Dude, I want to eat some candy.
Dude,
I'll get in trouble.
You'll get in so much trouble.
Yeah. Yeah, did you after one of our randomizer drafts, didn't you rip through some chocolate?
Well, yeah, because my wife's hobby now is she makes like gourmet chocolates.
Chocolates.
And she makes such a chocolates and they're delicious. I guess that's an Italian woman who's
I want to buy some. You sent it to me, but I for whatever reason didn't find it.
Yeah, she's not really on.
I finally just got the text. You're so loud. Oh my God, are you going to be live until the very end? I just saw that there is overtime.
Yeah, I got the text heading to bed. Please get me a coffee tomorrow, nighty night. Yeah, so they're not happy with us right now.
Wow, everyone got a text except me.
Stephen Ellis in the chat. What's up, Stephen Ellis? He is like one of our best hockey writers we have at linemovement.com. So what's up, Steve? He says the Vernon Vipers are one of the best team names in junior hockey. Steven, I liked you until you said that, man. That's messed up. We're Penticton V's people around here. Nick Charman in the chat said this show is much better when they didn't suck at DFS. That might be true.
What do you mean? We've sucked at DFS the past 3 weeks.
I mean, the numbers definitely.
Oh, man.
Anytime you can be 4x your bankroll going into week 8.
I just realized my bootleg stream is down.
Someone can say game over. What just happened?
Chase Edmonds broke off a long run to get them into field goal range.
I wouldn't put it past Zane for a little shank.
We're going to min cash that showdown team.
Are we?
Along with 12 of our closest duped friends.
Wait, is that the lineup that's duped?
I have no idea.
Leone, is the min cash team duped?
Yeah.
Jesus.
Disley captain with Russ, Kyler, Nuke, Lockett, Edmonds. Our Edmonds captain doesn't have Lockett. That would explain why it's so far behind.
Chase Edmonds is so much better than Kenyon Drake. It's not even funny.
Facts.
What did we play? The 150? No, the 180.
I don't know. It's all the same.
How long do you think we could do this stream? I bet I could go all night.
Yeah, I think I'd be in trouble if we went all night, or I'd have to be a very quiet member of the stream. I'm glad you're super happy with your day off tomorrow there, buddy.
Oh my God, dude.
That was one of the best calls I've ever made. I knew what was happening. I knew this game was going to overtime. I knew Buffalo Wild Wings was sending this bad boy to OT. Had to get in the PTO for the OT.
Pete, you're supposed to be our host. You haven't told these people to like this video one time. You're supposed to tell them to smash the like button. You're supposed to tell them to hit that notification bell. Like, what good are you, man? You're supposed to tell the people the things to do.
Everyone, listen up. I don't care if you're a mimosa man. I don't care if you're a Bloody Mary bro. I want you to like this video. There's one thing everyone can agree upon, and that's that the tilt space is the tilt space, and that you need to smash the subscribe button. You need to hit the likes. You need to leave a comment, okay? I know we were hard on you guys earlier. We had some tough conversations. We all said some things we wish we could take back. But now we all come together. And we come together and we unite under the umbrella of subscribing and turning on the notifications for the Line Movement YouTube channel. Thank you, ladies and gentlemen. That is my time.
Guys, we finished.
I'll take it.
We finished 73rd in the Juke out of in 71 teams cash.
Perfect. Is that good?
On the main slate?
Yeah. The Kyler
I should probably check
Skinny,
my main slate teams.
The Kyler Kirk Skinny with Metcalf Lockett.
It finished one off?
Two spots off. It's in 73rd and 71 cash.
Is it over? Did Zane hit this?
I guess there was a timeout called, so it's possible. I don't know. I would like to watch.
I got spoiled.
That means he missed it. Okay, so
Come on.
We need Metcalf points.
What do we need? We need Metcalf?
Oh.
Yeah.
What's the min cash in the Juke? Is it a 2x?
I think so.
I think so. It might be 1.8.
Oh my.
In some sort of Christmas miracle, I might get half my buy-ins back today. What a joke, DFS.
Oh, wow. Good for you, Mr.
I do
Rich
not
Boy.
deserve that whatsoever.
Didn't I call it? Someone rolled back the tape. I said Zane has a shank in him. I said it. I touted it. Like DeAndre Swift, I touted it.
I don't know if you guys know this, but Zane just missed the field goal, so there's still time left.
Yeah, welcome. Wow, what a game, man. This is why we do it, guys. This is why you do it. Is for games like these. It's just incredible drama just unfolding on the gridiron. Us collectively watching.
Dink wants to watch the tilt. We should have Dink come on the tilt.
Yeah, get Dink on. We need some of that. I sat in a line for 4-hour Dink energy.
How do you get him on, Joe?
I'll send him a invite right now.
We want Dink. We want Dink.
Okay, he's ready. He says he'll come on.
One's for Dink in the chat, and
will
also
you, text
one's
me
for
his,
Dink in the chat.
Actually, I can send. Someone send it to him on Twitter.
Someone send him the link to our Discord on Twitter.
Yeah, how else are we supposed to get him on here, Pete? We're literally.
Oh, you meant
Discord.
DM? I didn't know if you wanted me to publicly in front of everyone.
Oh my god!
You want all these chat rats getting in here?
These chat rats. Oh god, we got to keep the plebes at bay, typing at their computers.
Hang on, before we let him on, will Dink agree that Derrick Henry was a good play? Because if not, he is not welcomed here.
Are you guys trolling me? And I'm gonna send Dink this random DM right now.
No, I'm not trolling you.
At midnight.
Yeah, that would be the greatest troll. Yeah, man.
Hey man, come on our show.
Silva said he wants to come on, and if you call him at this number, he'd love it.
Pete and I are texting. Oh my god, Joe's gonna send Dink a DM, and Dink's not gonna know what it means.
The only thing, the only thing we're gonna have to do is we're gonna have to throw up the "Be Right Back" screen, which people are gonna freak out.
No, don't do that.
You have to, man.
No, you don't. They understand, Joe. Like, we are 2.5 hours into this live stream. They do not care. They can see how the sausage gets made in real time on the production side.
They don't watch me build the overlay in real time.
Just put them on. We don't need an overlay.
Put him over Leone.
He has to come into the chat, man. The Discord before I can add him.
Put Leone and Dink in the same box. The same little box.
Oh god, does Dink need to have a Discord?
He's already in, man. Hang on. He's just gotta accept my tell him to accept my friend request.
Have you seen Dink with technology?
I mean, he got in pretty quick.
Oh, I shouldn't talk. I've had some issues with this Discord space.
You know, Dink getting in here quick. I mean, this guy would show up to the opening of an envelope. I mean, this guy is such a media whore. I mean, the amount of things this guy will do just for a little bit of clout.
Can you tell him to accept my friend?
Dink wants to come on and talk 2-minute drill flash drafts with us.
Dink looks and he goes, oh my God, there's 267 people watching now. Think if I got some of that steam, I'm on my way to 50,000 Twitter followers. Just think what this could do for me.
Oh my God.
Oh my God. Lock it again. Are you fucking kidding me?
What did he do?
I don't know. I don't want to see a touchdown. Oh my God. 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 Is this the highest scoring fantasy game ever by a receiver? Russ is scrambling, throws past the Lockett in the middle of the field, pretty innocuous, and goes down. Okay.
Will you tell him to accept my friend request so I can add him to the call?
I did.
Is there a 200-yard bonus on DK?
No.
What do we need? We need DK Metcalf, you said, right?
I think we did it actually. We're min cashing, guys.
Let's fucking go. Let's go. This is why I take off. This is why I play the game, to min cash the juke when we're down $3,000 on the slate. This is why we do it.
All right. Hey, I know the quickest way to do this. He's in the waiting room. So I'm going to throw up the Be Right Back. Literally go in.
No, don't.
No, I can tell you we can handle this. We can handle this. You're going to click on the line movement thing. You're going to click on the line movement thing and you're going to go to the waiting room.
Fucking kidding me?
No,
you're going to see
I'm going to say something so funny why they go away.
Don't care. Don't care. Be Right Back going up. right, we're on. Hey, you guys want it? You got it. We're building the overlay on stream then. Fine. What's up, Drew? How's it going, man? Thanks for joining us.
Wait, we're live?
We're live. Yeah, you told me you didn't want to be in the waiting room anymore, so we're live.
Oh, I think the chat's going to leave because there's no overlay. They're not here for this cheap shit, Joe.
The production value is really taking
Corey
a hit
just did remind me that I went to the fridge for a Coors Light that I had forgotten to open. So thank you for that in the chat.
That's true.
Drew, how's it going? Did you get a new
Are you wearing a
What?
You wearing a Snuggie?
No, it's a we did this whole thing earlier. It's a blanket from a hotel. Yeah. Did you get a new haircut, Drew? You look kind of dapper.
Yeah. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, you look good.
Trying to oh wow. Well, that'll change some contests.
Okay,
no.
Drew just comes on here and just starts spoiling shit.
Dude, he is ahead of everybody in everything. I've been in like 100 different fucking chats with this guy, and he beat everyone to everything.
Metcalf. They say Metcalf. They said Metcalf.
Come on.
Mincash.
I thought we were already min cashing. Can we go for more than a min cash?
Well, I had to min cash and check down.
Do you want me to scroll or no?
I'm building us
taking
an
a
overlay.
Screenshot. It's Dink. It's 3 screens of Dink getting progressively smaller. And Joe, he literally boxed Leone and I out of the chat.
We're good. You guys are here.
No, we're not.
Oh wait, there's a flag. Oh no.
We see
I'm not spoiling it.
3 Dinks, 1
No,
Joe.
you don't,
That's the
man.
new
You're
internet
on delay.
viral
Pete,
video.
you're on delay.
Oh no.
Is there a flag?
Oh,
Drew,
yeah.
what's happening
Yeah.
from the future?
Oh no.
Oh,
It got called back.
Oh no.
Holding on David Moore.
David Moore. Are you kidding me?
I'm gonna go ahead and say that I disagree with the call, as he's clearly holding him.
Holy shit. Oh my god. I've got more information from the future if you'd like to know.
Is it Davis tweeting worst holding call of all time?
That's probably from my past
Oh
now.
my god. The chat's still going crazy, by the way.
I'm one spot
another
off
crazy
from
thing just
cash
happened.
in the 7
I just saw it. I saw it, Dink. TweetDeck spoiled it. TweetDeck lives in the future.
This game has been insane.
Who would have thought there'd be a lot of points in this one, huh?
Oh,
Yeah,
I need
that coming.
I need the Hopkins bonus. Can we get the Hopkins bonus? Did he return it all the way?
No.
Okay.
There was actually
I'm like the opposite of Dink. I'm like in some
there's a decent
cave
amount of value
somewhere.
at points of this stream, and it really went off the rails quickly.
Drew, Mike said you had a sweat on FanDuel. Did that pan out?
I've got a lot of teams. You know, I've 610 teams on FanDuel.
Hey,
So
not
I
to
had
brag.
one that coming into this game was winning the $3 like snap or something like that, but then Lockett quickly erased that. But then a bunch of like Lockett, Kirk, Kyler teams have bubbled up. Now like I have some sweats, I think, but I think I'm kind of boxed out because in the kickoff, I think I am down like 7 to E. Hafner and PK Reader and all these dudes who played Chiefs D and I had Bills D. So I basically lost on defenses.
Do you think any of those were late swaps? It's like Chiefs D was like 1% in some of the contests I was in for like late swaps on DK at least.
I don't think so because on FanDuel there was so much it was really you had so much salary relief to be able to build that.
True.
Their price tag on DraftKings was a little bit tougher.
Leone, the future is saying nuke bonus.
Wow.
Yeah. I'm in the last cash spot right now, which seems like it's not going to hold because I don't have nuke. Unless Chase Edmonds just runs for a touchdown.
So wait, you
I thought
you
needed
wanted a
nuke.
nuke bonus.
Yeah.
Yeah, that was good, but I don't have Kyler or Kirk, so it's very fragile. Is what I'm saying.
What do you?
That's not what you're saying.
Bad.
What you're saying is I didn't have nuke.
I don't know what I'm saying, guys. It's been a long night.
Crack open that chocolate for Micah back there. You'll feel better.
I will be in trouble. Drew, I got the text from Rachel. I should read it again for him because he'll enjoy it.
Oh yeah?
Yeah.
Did you specify that I have nothing to do with this one?
I won't. I'll make sure she knows that you came on the stream. You're so loud. Oh my God, are you going to be live until the very end?
Yeah.
Oh my God, I just saw that there is overtime.
Dink, I have a very important question for you because I got this one wrong earlier today. So say in theory that you walk out into your living room and your wife, your significant other, spills an entire mimosa on your couch. And as like the citizen that you are, you go try to help clean it up because you didn't get upset. You're like, okay, like accidents happen.
Yeah.
But as you're cleaning it up, are you dabbing or are you rubbing? It's a very distinct way you're supposed to clean things, apparently.
I thought you dab. Do you not
I'm
dab?
the only one that didn't know you're supposed to dab, man. I got in so I literally watched my girlfriend yard sale an entire mimosa on our couch, and I was the one that got in trouble because I didn't clean it correctly. It was wild. It was a wild morning. It was just a great start to my day, and outside of all the DFS like debacle that just happened.
Joe, you know how you have to pay your penance. You need to dab for us now. On this kind of day.
I got microphones in my way, dude.
Joe, I want to see you dab.
Oh my God, we almost got Kirk times 3.
Wait. The chat. I don't even trust the chat anymore. We have a love-hate relationship with our chat right now because they were firing us up earlier. And then Leone
the game is ended.
Wait, did you ask him about Derrick Henry? I think that's what we really wanted.
It's
to
over.
know.
It's over. Shut it down. End the stream. Thank you guys for coming out tonight.
No.
Let Leone go to bed. Let him mend his marriage. Let Joe go dab his couch. Let Dink go check his 615 teams.
That he hand built.
Drew, when are you going to release your video on ETR, how I hand build 615 teams every Sunday?
Yeah. That's the Silva special. I feel like Silva should do that screencast.
That'd be great.
Does he hand build a lot of teams?
I assume so.
Who is
I mean, Silva strikes me as a hand builder by a wide margin.
Who's that? I want to know who's going to be on this new sports betting show that got teased that I named Vig and Sigs. Who's going to be hosting it? You're not allowed to. Wow, you guys got real tight-lipped. I didn't know this was I didn't realize this was a national secret.
Wow. All right.
Awkward.
No clearance.
I'm not on this show, as far as I know.
You're on enough shows, Leo. Just chill.
Yeah, so we're just like occasional random guests of the show. So we're not super involved.
Okay. All right. Wow. Sounds like
so not us.
This has been very interesting for everyone to know. There's a lot of drama going on behind the scenes about booking talent for this show, apparently.
We're not the A-list cast on ETR. We're the B team.
Yeah,
you haven't figured this out. You get the Saturday 10 a.m. Eastern slot.
Saturday 10 a.m.
You guys get the guy with a banjo at Coachella and like a little small tent by the porta potty while Diplo's playing in the big field.
I understood a few of those words.
Man.
Oh my God. Is this game actually over? It's
Pete,
over,
we're gonna
right?
have to roll this right into my first look tomorrow. I think that's the rate we're on right now.
All right. Should we wind this down, guys?
Sure, man. Thanks for joining us. You're welcome anytime. Come
back.
Hey,
thanks for having me on.
Yeah.
I'm so glad to hear you guys were discussing my terrible dynasty trade offers.
We're gonna.
It honestly wasn't that bad. I was actually considering it, but you revoked it. Like Juju goes for like 8 for 50, and Drew goes, I can't do this trade.
That's all I needed. That's all I needed. I'm back. Juju's back. I'm back. DJ Moore's back. Did you see the comment on the trade though? Did you see the comment on the trade? It was literally I'm sending you this trade because Karain said to do it in a podcast.
Right. And I mean I'm not gonna be a little pawn in this game.
2 weeks in a row,
all
Peter's gotten real aggressive though with like a guest that wasn't supposed to actually come on, and then they came on, and he gets completely backpedaled every take that he had. Last week it was Peter Jennings playing 3 chalk running backs. This week it's Dink with a trade that was, I guess, questionable, but now it's not.
You did this last week too. What, you want me to go off on Dink? Fuck you, Dink. What do you want from me, Holka?
No, I want you to be consistent, and when the guest actually comes on, I want you to stand your ground. That's all the people want.
Yeah, he sent me a shit trade offer, and then he revoked it like a coward.
There you go. That's all we want. Tell us how you really feel.
All right, guys. Thank you for tuning into the Tilt Space. Check out Mike and Drew. All jokes aside, honestly, we were talking a lot about process, GPP tournament strategy, their show on ETR every Saturday morning, the Primo slot, Establish the Millions. Great show. We also have Drew's leverage column, which is awesome. Check them out. Holka's doing it on the YouTubes. I'm going to do my review of my lineup that I just realized finished 5,000th out of 5,555 lineups. So that'll be a fun tomorrow morning. We appreciate you guys tuning in for the Tilt Space. We'll be back at our normal time next week at 6:30 p.m. Eastern. For Joe Holka, for Mike Leone, for our guest Drew Dinkmeyer, I'm Peter Overzet. We'll see you guys next time.